Chapter 1900. Why is someone condensing a core? Who you couldn't help but exclaim in shock, but she immediately shook her head. But this pressure is different from a golden core. It seems far from enough. Moreover, the divine sense isn't a golden core divine sense. Only the condensation of the world's spiritual energy is somewhat similar to an initial golden core. Mannion was also a golden core cultivator, so she naturally knew the difference. Elder Yuan, this is Zhiqiping, was also puzzled and looked at Yuan Feng. Inside the formation, there's only Chao Wu's soul essence. Can Chao Wu condense a core? Yuan Feng was completely confused. Could it be those cultivators who appeared just now? Who you suddenly asked. Impossible. Although Yuan Feng didn't see their faces clearly, he could clearly see their cultivation bases and flatly denied it. They're all in the initial stage of foundation establishment. How can Chao Wu condense a core in such a short time? What should we do? Just wait like this? Mannion frowned. Yuan Feng smiled bitterly and said helplessly, Elder man, why are you talking nonsense? No matter who condenses a core inside, the surroundings are controlled by the celestial phenomenon. Our divine senses can't even get close, so how can we do anything else? But if Chao Wu condenses a core inside, I'm afraid our plan will change. Huyu was somewhat anxious. Yuan Feng frowned slightly and said unhappily, Elder Hu, if Chao Wu condenses a core, what do we have to be afraid of? Moreover, if it's Chao Wu condensing a core, would I need to make such a big fuss? Huyu's face reddened, and she didn't say anything else. Let's wait first. Yuan Feng said with a smile. It's just a core condensation. It won't be a big hindrance to our actions. Elder Yuan's words are reasonable. Although Mannion said this, she still felt strange when she saw the fist-sized crystal fly into the altar. As for Xiaohua, who was below the altar, he was safe and sound at this moment. Because the foundation establishment celestial phenomenon had confined the surroundings, those seemingly endless vengeful spirits were all confined in midair, unable to move. The Phoenix Dharma body was also suspended above Xiaohua's head, not waiting for him to move. Xiaohua's entire person was sitting cross-legged, taking the foundation establishment pill, while converting the true qi absorbed into his body into true essence. Other people might take an hour or two to build their foundation, but Xiaohua took an entire day and night to build his foundation. He took a total of 360 foundation building pills in the space, which was exactly the number of great circulations. Only then did the true energy in his body turn into true essence. Afterwards, the heaven and earth spiritual qi that entered his body was also refined by the Heart Sutra, turning into true essence that circulated within his meridians. Just as Xiaohua stopped taking the foundation establishment pill and checked the condition of his body, he suddenly discovered that in the center of his lower dantian, there was a virtual point that was much lower than a grain of rice. It was slowly rotating. What is this? Could it be a gold core? Xiaohua was shocked and thought to himself, but it's different from a gold core, it's a virtual point. Could it be? Because there was something just now. That something appeared in my dantian because of Ancestor Gen's core condensation? However, Xiaohua was very clear that this was almost an impossible matter. The comprehension of core condensation was only the comprehension of breaking through the realm. It definitely would not increase the realm of a cultivator. But if that was not the case, then what was the reason? Forget it, Xiaohua secretly shook his head. I'd better wait for the foundation establishment restriction to disappear. Then quickly think of a way to escape from here. Sigh, this hateful restriction, even I can't break through it. Otherwise, I could borrow the power of the celestial phenomenon and escape. What was hateful was not only the foundation establishment restriction, there was also the celestial phenomenon that shocked Xiaohua even more. It was gathering in the sky above the flame forest mountains that had already condensed into lava. In the sky above, the dark red clouds became denser and denser. Threads of heavenly lightning as thick as a thumb were faintly jumping about. When the thunderclouds pressed down on the fire lake, the power of the heavenly lightning had already enveloped the entire altar. This is bad. The first to sense it was Yuan Feng and the other elders. With a sweep of his divine sense, he was greatly shocked. He shouted loudly, Disciples, quickly store your spirit beasts into your spirit storage pouches. You all also sit on the ground. You can only hold your breath and concentrate. You are not allowed to operate your heart techniques or release your divine sense. This is a spirit beast. The lightning tribulation of core condensation has nothing to do with us. When the disciples heard this, they hurriedly stored their spirit beasts. Following Yuan Feng's instructions, they distanced themselves from the altar and sat cross-legged on the ground. Elder Yuan, who you transmitted her voice. When did the lightning tribulation appear when a spirit beast is core condensation? From what I know, I'm afraid that the lightning tribulation will only appear when it's out of shape, right? Yuan Feng smiled bitterly. He looked around and also transmitted his voice. How would I know? I've only read some foreign books when I went to millions of Meng mountains. When ancient demonic beasts evolve, there will be a crimson lightning tribulation. Look at the crimson color of the dark clouds in the sky right now. It's somewhat similar to the crimson lightning tribulation. Could it be that the Chao Wu is out of shape? Hu Yu said abruptly. However, as soon as she finished speaking, before Man Yun and the others could reply, she blushed. It was obvious that the Chao Wu's soul essence was suppressed under the formation. Without the support of its fleshly body, how could the Chao Wu be in shape? Yuan Feng quickly smoothed things over and said with a smile, "It's all my fault for not explaining clearly. Other than the Chao Wu's soul essence, there shouldn't be any other spirit beast under the altar. However, because the Chao Wu is a ferocious beast, the living beings it devours can't enter the 6 paths and can't be reincarnated. There should be many souls controlled by the Chao Wu's soul essence under the altar." Souls? As expected, Man Yun said in astonishment. It's said that such otherworldly items are necessary for fiendish cultivators. If we have any fiendish artifacts, it will be of great use. Even if we have fiendish artifacts, we can't refine them without fiendish cultivation techniques. Hu Yu said. Moreover, we extracted the Chao Wu's soul essence. Those vengeful souls dissipated. We can treat it as a great merit. Ha ha ha, Elder Hu, our Dao sect only cultivates Dao techniques, not merit. Zhi Qiping laughed. Just as he was laughing, he heard a series of muffled sounds of heavenly thunder. No! A strand of lightning thinner than a strand of hair fell down. It rushed straight through the fire lake, passed through the stone wall, and entered the altar. Xiao Hua, who was inside the black qi, had already completed his foundation establishment. The meridians in his body were incomparably stable. Water-like true essence flowed smoothly in his meridians. Xiao Hua only waved his hand and shot out the fireball technique with incomparable familiarity. A fireball of the same size as before, but the fire spiritual energy inside was condensed several times over. Was born from his hand. Xiao Hua's divine sense swept over the fireball. He couldn't help but sigh with emotion. He said to himself, "No wonder Master always emphasized foundation establishment. Foundation establishment's true essence really can't be compared to true qi. Although I already had a certain concept before, when I really built my foundation, I really had true essence. Only then did I understand the profoundness within. My magic power. I don't know how many times deeper than before." Hee. Xiao Hua's face immediately revealed a sinister smile. "I took 360 foundation establishment pills to build my foundation. How can I compare to ordinary cultivators? Before building my foundation, I already had the ability to contend against ordinary late-stage foundation establishment cultivators. Then what about after building my foundation?" Thinking of this, Xiao Hua couldn't help but feel his blood boil. He raised his hand and was about to throw the fireball at those vengeful souls that were baring their fangs and brandishing their claws again. However, just as the fireball was thrown out, a heavenly might even more fierce than before emerged around Xiao Hua. Everything was unable to move. What's going on? Xiao Hua was greatly alarmed. The true essence that had just been born in his body seemed to have solidified. It seemed as if it couldn't flow. He really didn't understand. Since he had already built his foundation, was there still anything that couldn't be done? Rumble, rumble, rumble. A burst of thunder resounded in Xiao Hua's ears, and even in his heart. A burst of indescribable fear emerged from Xiao Hua's heart. Heavenly lightning? Soundless lightning? Xiao Hua had experienced the soundless lightning in the myriad Thunder Valley, and immediately had some understanding. Could it be that Foundation establishment also has a lightning tribulation? A vague imprint related to the lightning tribulation appeared in Xiao Hua's memory. It was a kind of fear, a kind of joy, and a kind of worship. Oh my, how do I know so much? Xiao Hua was once again puzzled. Chow Chow from before was also like that. How do I know? Could it be the fire ape's soul essence? Just as Xiao Hua's puzzlement emerged, he saw a heavenly might descend from the sky. A scarlet lightning net sprinkled down. Fear, excitement, pleasant surprise. All kinds of emotions actually emerged from Xiao Hua's phoenix Dharma body. On Xiao Hua's body that was firmly pressed down, those 13,200 tiny dots also had a kind of eager impulse. They wanted to break free from Xiao Hua's bones and rush into the phoenix Dharma body. Ka-cha-cha. Zzz. A burst of complicated sounds rang out. The scarlet lightning net first fell on Xiao Hua's phoenix Dharma body. That phoenix Dharma body was instantly defeated and scattered into 13,200 tiny red dots. These tiny dots only had tiny blazing flames at this moment. The fine threads of lightning struck in. First, they pressed the spiral-shaped netherworld wind into the tiny dots. Then the lightning also condensed into the tiny dots. Wind, fire, and lightning faintly flashed within the tiny dots. Gob, just as the threads of lightning passed through the phoenix Dharma body, those 13,200 tiny dots flashed with a fiery light. Like a phoenix undergoing nirvana, a hurricane was born within the tiny dots. However, within this hurricane, there were more threads of fire and lightning. The phoenix Dharma body was gradually taking shape again. Ouch! Xiao Hua couldn't help but cry out miserably. He felt the same as the phoenix Dharma body. The phoenix Dharma body was defeated like this. It was as if his body was being torn apart. How could he endure it? However, his consciousness was so clear that he couldn't faint even if he wanted to. Every bit of pain was transmitted to his mind. This was an inhumane torture that Xiao Hua had never experienced before. Bone erosion and soul search. I'm afraid this is the only way, right? Xiao Hua felt that death was better than living. However, this was merely the beginning. Below the phoenix Dharma body was the Buddha's Saraira. The scarlet lightning net also mercilessly struck the Saraira. Similarly, a zzzt sound rang out. The lightning net covered the Buddha's Saraira. A kind of numbing and itchy feeling was immediately born. Just as this feeling was born, Xiao Hua felt as if he was reborn. However, immediately after, it transformed into an even more indescribable pain. Xiao Hua wished that he could grow 1,000,000 hands and scratch the Buddha's Saraira. This numbing itch really pierced his heart. Chapter 1901. As this feeling deepened, the Buddha Saraira, which was about to disappear, gradually regained its golden light. The damaged parts were also repaired. Buddha Saraira can actually be cultivated like this? Xiao Hua's heart was filled with thousands of hands, but he couldn't reach out. He could only hatefully think about it. But in an instant, Xiao Hua thought of the Saraira he got from Misty Mountain. Fortunately, Xiao Hua only had his physical body and couldn't move. His mind still had some freedom. Without hesitation, he took out the 2 Sarairas from the space and threw them into the lightning net. Sure enough, the moment the Saraira touched the lightning net, it melted. However, the melted liquid didn't repair the Saraira like Xiao Hua thought. Instead, it gathered under the Saraira's feet, forming a thin layer. Wang, the final lightning net finally landed on Xiao Hua's body. At this time, Xiao Hua didn't feel any pain. Even if the lightning net tore his body apart, he was torn into 132 million small pieces. Xiao Hua's entire body became a bloody mess that people couldn't bear to look at. He could only watch coldly. This demonic beast's physical body tribulation was really too fierce. Xiao Hua thought that his body was already incomparably strong, but it was so easily torn apart. Fortunately, just as his flesh was about to fly, the scarlet red bones with a tinge of orange emitted a gentle light. The bones tightly absorbed the 132 million small dots. Even the scattered blood didn't lose a single drop. And these small dots were like greedy babies, swallowing the lightning threads scattered in his body one by one. As the lightning threads were swallowed, the light on the bones gave birth to a healing power. His body was repaired bit by bit, and the blood was once again drawn into his blood vessels. Roar! It was a faint dragon's roar. Just when Xiaohua thought that the lightning tribulation was over, his meridians moved again. The dragon transformation art madly circulated again. The lightning net passed through his body and finally landed on Xiaohua's dragon veins. Piercing pain, sore and itchy, his meridians were torn apart again. Xiaohua was speechless. I'm only at foundation establishment. Another hour passed, but there was no more movement within the formation. Woof! A light sound broke the tranquility of the formation. Less than 30 meters to the left of Xiaohua, a crimson-black Chao's soul essence appeared. This soul essence wasn't large, only a foot long, and there were several strands of lightning lingering around it. Obviously, it was affected by Xiaohua's inexplicable lightning tribulation. Chao and I soul essence. Xiaohua immediately understood that the lightning tribulation was coming to an end. Xiaohua's body was being repaired and he couldn't move for the time being. However, he could see with his naked eye. What's suppressed under this array formation is the Chao Li's soul essence. Those vengeful souls are also being driven by the Chao Li's soul essence. Listening to the sound of the Chao Teng's soul essence, it seems that the damage is not light. I think I have a chance. Immediately, Xiaohua looked around and looked at the countless vengeful souls from before. Most of them had already been destroyed by the lightning tribulation. The remaining ones were mostly fish that slipped through the net, or people with tyrannical cultivation when they were alive. Great! Xiaohua was pleasantly surprised. However, he couldn't move at the moment and couldn't use his divine ability to kill the Chao Li's soul essence. Just as Xiaohua was feeling disappointed, 5 lumps of light that weren't brilliant appeared near the barking. As soon as the 5 lumps of light appeared, they immediately surrounded the Chao Li's soul essence. The 5 colored lumps of light constantly attacked the Chao Li's soul essence. With every attack, the Chao Li's soul essence would tremble, seeming to be heavily injured. 5 spirits. Xiaohua was dumbstruck again. He moaned, Azure Dragon, White Tiger, Vermilion Bird, Black Tortoise and Qilin. Heavens, this array formation. Where the hell is it? That's not right. That doesn't seem to be a Qilin. Xiaohua observed for a moment, and immediately realized that something was wrong. The lumps of the 5 spirits were all in the shape of the 5 spirits. Only the Qilin's soul essence couldn't help but be fat. It was actually somewhat similar to the dust-repelling beast. Woof! At this moment the Chao Li moved. The lightning threads around its body already disappeared without a trace. At the same time that the vengeful souls flew around it, its body also emitted a black and red lumps of light to attack the 5 spirits. Damn it, hurry up and move. Xiaohua used all his strength to break free from the shackles. Unfortunately, this was the shackles of the lightning tribulation. The might of heaven and earth. How could he move? And the vengeful souls that were forced back by the lightning tribulation just now were flying towards Xiaohua's Buddha Sarira. Fortunately, after being baptized by the lightning tribulation, the golden light of the Buddha Sarira seemed to be even more dignified. Previously, if the vengeful souls had to eat 10 mouthfuls to transcend, now they only needed 1 mouthful to repent. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, Xiaohua was finally able to move. He opened his mouth without any hesitation, and the dream execution flew out, transforming into 8 sword lights that rushed towards the Chao Li's soul essence. At the same time, the Phoenix Dharma body also let out a cry and flapped its wings, grabbing at the soul essence with its sharp claws. Naturally, the first layer of Xiaohua's Buddha Sarira was also used. After going through the lightning tribulation, the word Lin became even more powerful. It was 3 times bigger than before, and one word could transcend 3 times the number of vengeful souls. At this moment, the 5 spirits had been knocked around by the Chao Li, and their lumps had become much weaker. Especially the Qilin. Not only had its lumps become weaker, its speed had also become much slower. The Chao Li was also cunning. When it saw the Qilin was weak, it focused on attacking it. The 5 spirits formed the 5 skandhas formation of spirit awakening. If the Qilin was broken, the formation would be broken, and the Chao Li would naturally be able to escape. It had to be said that spirit husbandry sex method was like asking a tiger for its skin. If they were slightly careless, and there was no need to say careless, they had basically gotten themselves caught in a trap of their own making. Xiao Hua's 8 sword lights had joined in at the right time. The power of karma was what the Chaoli feared, and it could also injure the Chaoli. Therefore, wherever the sword lights reached, the Chaoli had no choice but to deal with them. Of course, it was only to deal with them. Xiao Hua's cultivation was far too inferior to the Chaoli's. Even though he had just entered foundation establishment, and his strength had increased greatly, it was still not enough to deal with the Chaoli. The phoenix Dharma body flew over, and its seemingly huge body and seemingly sharp phoenix claws were produced with a bark from the Chaoli's soul essence. The phoenix Dharma body hurriedly spread its wings to resist the binding force. How could the claws reach down? Seeing this, Xiao Hua slapped his forehead, and the cloud-suppressing seal flew out. With a buzzing sound, it smashed towards the Chaoli's soul essence. However, the truth was not out of Xiao Hua's expectations. The cloud of the cloud-suppressing seal smashed towards the Chaoli. Although the Chaoli was apprehensive of the power of karma, he was not afraid. He dodged slightly and dodged it. The cloud-suppressing seal was unable to succeed. Since the cloud-suppressing seal was ineffective, Xiao Hua did not waste his efforts. He used all sorts of magic treasures like the Yi-Yang fan and the Fireball Talisman. Unfortunately, none of them were effective. Instead, they angered the Chaoli, and waves of binding force enveloped Xiao Hua. Forget it. Xiao Hua saw that all his methods were useless and could only use the Phoenix Dharma body. Chapter 1902. Not to mention that Xiao Hua saw that all kinds of methods were useless, he could only use the Phoenix Dharma body, and do his best to circulate the Buddhist Dharma cultivation method to save the souls of the dead, and reduce the burden of the 5 spirits. Among the 5 spirits, the Azure Dragon let out a dragon roar, shaking the black fog of the dead souls away a little. Then the Azure Dragon's light ball suddenly elongated, and the brilliance suddenly converged. Like the Azure Dragon swinging its tail, it began to rotate in the air, and a strange fluctuation was born. At the same time, the white tiger, the vermilion bird, and the black tortoise also roared as if they had received an order. The 4 light balls immediately began to rotate, and 3 different kinds of fluctuations were born. Then, the fat Qilin let out a weak cry, and then slowly rotated again. The brilliance of the light ball was also intermittent, and the fluctuations it produced were also intermittent. The 5 kinds of fluctuations intertwined, giving birth to a new kind of fluctuation. It was like a net that covered the Chao Enai from top to bottom. Although the Chao Enai was rarely afraid, it was suppressed by the 5 spirits. No matter how hard it tried, it was unable to escape. Under the cover of this fluctuation, the Chao Ni's soul essence became smaller and smaller. In this way, the entanglement lasted for the time it took to brew a cup of tea. The Chao Enai opened its mouth slightly, and with a woof, a black gas rushed towards the Qilin's light ball. Hua! It was as if boiling water was poured on top of ice and snow. The light ball that the Chao Enai had been attacking for a long time suddenly flickered. The Qilin in the light ball clearly could not hold on. Not good. Xiao Hua cursed in his heart. Seeing the other 4 spirits' brilliance dim at the same time as the Qilin's brilliance, the net-like fluctuation also began to tremble. He knew that the 5 spirits would not be able to hold on for long. When Xiao Hua was anxious, he thought of the dust-repelling beast in his space that he did not know what to do. Let's give it a try? Xiao Hua thought, and with a wave of his hand, the huge dust-repelling beast was taken out by Xiao Hua. The originally ordinary dust-repelling beast's corpse, once it entered the array, the sharp horn on its forehead immediately emitted a gentle brilliance. This brilliance was incomparably pure, and a kind of holy power immediately spread out. When Chao Xiu's soul essence was illuminated by the brilliance, it was extremely alarmed. It wanted to hide in the darkness, but the 5 spirits had already formed an array and suppressed it. There was a limit to its ability to hide. When Xiao Hua saw this, he was overjoyed. He resisted the shackles of the Chao Ti and flew towards the place where the 5 spirits were. When he got close, the Qilin let out a long cry like a horse and rushed into the body of the Chao Ti beast with incomparable speed. When the Qilin light came out again, it was already several times stronger than before. The brilliance was even more brilliant. Moreover, the image of the Qilin inside was really like a Qilin. It was no longer as fat as before. This is bad. Xiaohua didn't have time to cheer. In his field of vision, he saw that Chao's soul essence actually took advantage of the fact that the five spirits' coordination was a bit uncoordinated to break free and fly down. Io, could it be that there's something else beneath me? Xiaohua's divine sense swept out. Now that Xiaohua had reached the foundation establishment realm, his divine sense had greatly improved. Although he was restricted by the array formation, he could still see the bottom. The place where Chao Ti had escaped to was a flaw in the array formation. There was still a faint lightning glow at this flaw. It had actually been broken by the lightning tribulation just now. Chao Ti wants to escape. Xiaohua was slightly shocked, but then a trace of joy appeared in his heart. If Chao Ti's soul essence had escaped, wouldn't he be able to escape as well? Unfortunately, just as Xiaohua was scheming in his heart, hundreds and thousands of suction forces suddenly appeared above his head and directly covered Chao Ti's soul essence. The disciples of Spirit Husbandry sect were already waiting impatiently outside the altar. Under the command of Elder Yuan Feng, they all released the spirit-devouring cultivation technique. Elder Yuan Feng was indeed a genius. This spirit-devouring cultivation technique was the nemesis of all soul essences. Even if Chao Ti was a ferocious beast and its soul essence was extremely ferocious, the thousands of spirit-devouring cultivation technique still easily absorbed Chao Ti's soul essence. Woof, Chao Ti barked in panic. If it was under normal circumstances, it might not necessarily have no means to escape. However, under Xiaohua's lightning tribulation, it was extremely weak and couldn't escape at all. It stopped at the flaw in the array formation, and the five spirits surrounded it. Chao Ti then charged towards the brilliance of the five spirits a few times. Although it was able to gain some benefits every time, the suction force of the thousands of spirit-devouring cultivation technique constantly tore Chao Ti's soul essence away. Woof woof, Chao Ti barked again. The few souls left in the array formation gathered towards Chao Ti, wanting to help Chao Ti resist the spirit-devouring cultivation technique. Xiaohua laughed loudly. You doghead, you still want to be lucky at this moment. After saying that, the Buddha Sarira stood up and chanted mantras as it flew in front of Chao Ti, blocking the souls from gathering together. It was unknown how many souls had passed through the Buddha Sarira. The golden color that had been baptized by the lightning tribulation was tattered and almost dimmed. Luckily, the two Sariras that Xiaohua had sent into the Buddha Sarira had turned into a thin layer of golden liquid that stopped at the feet of the Buddha Sarira. Every time the Buddha Sarira's golden body was exhausted, it would rush towards the Buddha Sarira along with Xiaohua's exquisite scripture, repairing the golden body. There was still some golden liquid under the Buddha Sarira. From the looks of it, it should be able to last until Chao Ti was torn apart and absorbed by the spirit-devouring cultivation technique. At this moment, another even more ferocious spirit-devouring cultivation technique entered the array formation. It was executed by Yuan Feng and the other elders. These four were even more powerful than the previous ones. Once they absorbed Chao Ti's soul essence, in less than the time it took to brew a cup of tea, Chao Ti's soul essence had shrunk by more than half. Chao Ti was also unlucky. The five spirits were originally the methods of Spirit Husbandry sect, but if it wasn't for Xiaohua's Buddha Sarira and the lightning tribulation, Spirit Husbandry sect wouldn't have been able to defend against the ferocious Chao Ti. Just Xiaohua's final lightning tribulation had destroyed 70% of Chao Ti's soul essence. Otherwise, the five spirits wouldn't have been unable to find Chao Ti's soul essence until the very end. Of course, if it wasn't for the five spirits of Spirit Husbandry sect and the spirit-devouring cultivation technique, Xiaohua probably wouldn't have been a match for Chao Ti with 30% of its strength. In the end, Xiaohua would only have been a dead spirit of Chao Ti's soul essence. However, Spirit Husbandry sect on the surface, and Xiaohua in the dark directly led to the end of Chao Ti's soul essence. Seeing the four powerful suction forces, Chao Ti's soul essence suddenly shrunk, causing more than half of the spirit-devouring cultivation technique to fail. Furthermore, when Chao Ti's soul essence expanded once again, It continued to expand. With a loud bang, not only did it break free from the restraint of the 5 spirits, it also broke free from the suction force. Xiaohua wasn't the only one who was shocked. All the disciples of Spirit Husbandry sect outside the sacrificial altar were also surprised. Quick, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Yuan Feng suddenly came to a realization. These soul essences don't have Chao Ti's imprint, both spirit beasts, and I can use them. As he said that, he sat down cross-legged and used the spirit-devouring cultivation technique to refine these soul essences. Man Yun and the other elders and disciples were all surprised. This was definitely an unexpected surprise. Therefore, everyone sat down cross-legged and worked hard, no longer mentioning the Chao Ti's soul essence in the sacrificial altar. Chao Ti wants to escape. This was the first reaction of Xiaohua, who was inside the sacrificial altar. He hurriedly used his spiritual sense to scan for the flaws in the formation. However, what shocked Xiaohua was that the 5 spirits had already blocked the flaws and Chao Ti's soul essence wasn't there at all. Xiaohua was rather surprised. Where did the dog head go? Just as this thought appeared, a trace of vigilance came from the phoenix spell body. Xiaohua was shocked and hurriedly used his spiritual sense to scan the sky. He saw an extremely dim Chao Ti's soul essence flying towards him. Damn it, your opponent is the 5 spirits, not me. Xiaohua was shocked and hurriedly used the bright thunder escape to dodge. However, very naturally, Chao Ti's power of confinement appeared from all sides and suppressed Xiaohua. Go! Xiaohua tried his best to urge the phoenix spell body. The spell body flapped its wings and blocked left and right, wanting to block Chao Ti's soul essence. At the same time, the 5 spirits also discovered the abnormality here and rushed over from the flaws. Woof! Chao Ti barked. It seemed to have dodged the phoenix spell body's obstruction and was about to rush into Xiaohua's body. However, just as the 5 spirits were about to surround it, it suddenly retreated and quickly flew towards the flaws in the formation. Damn it. This dog head actually knows how to feint. Xiaohua's little heart trembled in fear. Just as he was about to rejoice, a strange situation appeared again. That Qilin light seemed to have expected Chao Ti's actions. It actually took a step forward and flew in front of Chao Ti. The horse neighed and crashed into Chao Ti, blocking Chao Ti's escape route. Chao Ti's soul essence weakened again, and had no choice but to fly towards Xiaohua, thus warding beast. You fat pig. Xiaohua was furious. If I had known, I wouldn't have taken you out. The 5 spirits actually surrounded Chao Ti and Xiaohua. Xiaohua was flustered. Just now, all his magic treasures were useless. Now that Chao Ti was close to him, what should he do? Spiritual fire. Seeing Chao Ti close in and Xiaohua release the dream executioner, Xiaohua thought of the scarlet spiritual fire ignited by the fire origin. Pooh. Xiaohua didn't dare to be negligent. He opened his mouth and spat out a scarlet spiritual fire. That spiritual fire was absolutely bewitching. As soon as it flew out of his body, it immediately scattered a faint light throughout the entire space. Not only was Chao Ti afraid, even the 5 spirits stopped in their respective positions and didn't dare to go forward. Damn it, this spiritual fire is actually so powerful. Xiaohua was overjoyed. His hand began to form a shaky hand seal. He pointed his finger, wanting to activate the spirit fire. But just as Xiaohua was about to activate his magic power, the true essence in his body began to flow rapidly. His magic power began to flow uncontrollably into the hand seal. This was the first time Xiaohua used some ancient fire control divine art. He didn't expect it to consume so much magic power. Only when half of the magic power in his body was used did the hand seal in his hand take shape. Go! Xiaohua smiled bitterly and formed the hand seal. A thin line of fire flew out from the spiritual fire and drew a beautiful arc in the air, directly piercing Chao Ti's soul essence. Woof! With a miserable cry, Chao Ti's soul essence was ignited. His entire body tumbled in the air. When the bewitching red light was extinguished, Chao Ti's soul essence was only left with a thumb-sized shadow. Jie. At this time, the phoenix body let out a long cry and stretched out its beak. It opened its mouth and sucked in Chao Ti's soul essence. Roar! One of the 5 spirits, the Azure Dragon, also let out a dragon cry. It seemed to be dissatisfied with the actions of the phoenix body. Roar. For some unknown reason, Xiaohua's meridians also moved. Xiaohua involuntarily opened his mouth and let out a long cry. Moreover, the spiritual fire in his hand also suddenly moved. At this time, the Azure Dragon was speechless. It watched as the phoenix body sucked Chao Tiai's soul essence into its body. Just like before, when it absorbed the fire ape's soul essence, Chao Tiai's soul essence also flew into a small dot and stopped moving. Then, a huge amount of memories rushed into Xiaohua's mind. It's like this again. Xiaohua smiled bitterly. Following the pain in his head, he once again sealed the majority of his memories. Seeing Chao Tiai's soul essence disappear, the 5 spirits circled around Xiaohua for a while. Then they flew above the spell formation and stood in different positions, no longer moving. Chapter 1903. Xiaohua withdrew the spiritual fire and flew to the weak point of the formation. He first looked around but did not rush to escape. Instead, he activated the Buddha Sarira and continued to transcend the remaining dead souls. As Xiaohua transcended the dead souls, the Buddha fire in the Buddha heart within the Buddha Sarira had already taken shape. Until several hours later, all the dead souls had been transcended. There was not a trace of black energy left in the entire formation. Another few hundred strands of spirit-devouring cultivation technique rushed into the formation. The 5 spirits on the formation also began to move. Xiaohua knew that the formation was about to be opened. Damn it, even though my cultivation is at foundation establishment right now, it can't compare to Xiang Min. This bastard, with such a ruthless method, he must have already succeeded. If I rush out now, I will definitely fall into his hands. Why don't I escape first and see if there is a chance later? Thinking of this, Xiaohua did not hesitate and immediately rushed out of the formation's flaw. Outside was still the bottom of the fire lake, but because Xiaohua had built his foundation, he had absorbed all of the fire-type spiritual energy. Now it had turned into lava, and Xiaohua used the earth escape technique to easily escape from it. You are ready. On the altar, Elder Yuan Feng instructed. The Chao Wu's soul essence is definitely not this little. There must be some remaining soul essence hidden in this formation. Once you see any soul essence, immediately use the spirit-devouring cultivation technique. Immediately after, Yuan Feng used the technique. The 5 spirit flag fluttered in the wind, and a 5-colored brilliance shot out and rushed into the altar. Immediately after, the surface of the altar that was surging with black mist just now once again turned into 5 sparkling and translucent spirits. This Qilin seems to be wrong. Elder Yuan Feng, who was in charge of the array formation, was very sensitive. Then without thinking he waved the 5 spirit flags. The 5 spirits actually flew up from the altar and rushed into the 5 spirit flags, revealing that there was probably a space of several miles under the altar. However, when the formation opened, the space was also revealed, but the space was completely empty. It was as clean as a thief leaving a building. This Yuan Feng and the other 3 elders scanned with their divine senses. How could they not know? They could not help but be dumbfounded. Elder Yuan, there seems to be a flaw in the formation, Man Yun said in a very experienced manner. Yuan Feng scanned with his divine sense and gritted his teeth. No wonder. Even though we've gained a lot of benefits, but we haven't gotten most of the spirit beast's soul essences yet. It turns out that this bastard escaped from the array's flaw. It must have the help of other spirit beast's soul essences. Let's chase after it quickly. After he finished speaking, he instructed a portion of the disciples to clean up the mess. A portion of the disciples, under the lead of the other elders, went ahead and chased after Xiaohua. Then he put away the 5 spirit flags and sealed the array formation as before. After that, he brought the other disciples and chased after Xiaohua. Xiaohua naturally wouldn't go far. After the spirit husbandry sect disciples left to clean up the mess, the underground caves were empty. Xiaohua suddenly appeared in one of the caves. He looked down at the lifelike sacrificial altar and thought to himself, Spirit husbandry sect? It was the spirit husbandry sect. How was this possible? It's normal for them to covet the soul essence of the Chao Ao. But why was I sent here by Xiangmin? Could it be the formation Xiaohua had eavesdropped on the conversation of the spirit husbandry sect disciples who were cleaning up the mess? He already knew most of the truth. However, he didn't expect that he would mess up the spirit husbandry sect's plan. Furthermore, he could faintly feel that the reason he was sent here was related to the formation. After all, Xiangmin's plan and the spirit husbandry sect's plan were different. If Xiangmin had joined forces with the spirit husbandry sect, she wouldn't have joined forces with Zhen Yi. Since that's the case, Shui and eldest senior brother definitely aren't here. Xiaohua frowned. Then they should be the chasing thunder beast, right? But where is the chasing thunder beast? Xiaohua waved his hand and was about to take out the sun-moon corona. However, it was a pity that the sun-moon corona was no longer in his space. How could he take it out? I'm afraid I've fallen into the 5 elemental soul-capturing formation. Xiaohua was a little regretful. However, a hint of joy appeared in his eyes soon after. He sat cross-legged in the mountain cave and released his phoenix celestial body and divine sense. After a while, Xiaohua opened his eyes and flew out of the cave. He flew into midair and looked at the depths of Flame Forest Swamp. It was a completely different direction from where Spirit Husbandry sect was chasing. He frowned and said, "The sun-moon corona was refined by me and the fire ape spirit essence is also in the phoenix spell body. However, why can't I sense the exact location of the sun-moon corona? Why can I only sense it vaguely? If it was in someone else's storage bag, I wouldn't even be able to sense it vaguely. It must be in Shue's hands. Forget it. No matter what, how can I not care about Shue's safety?" Xiaohua chuckled and suddenly flew into the air. The bright thunder escape was executed very easily. After Xiaohua entered the Foundation establishment realm, how could his divine ability be predicted using common sense? The true essence in Xiaohua's body flowed smoothly like mercury, and a comfortable feeling that he had never experienced before was born in his meridians. Abundant magic power surged in his body, and Xiaohua had an impulse. He felt that even if there was a golden core cultivator in front of him, he could still fight for him. However, after thinking deeper, Xiaohua felt a little discouraged. Currently, all of his techniques were qi refinement spells. Not to mention golden core, he didn't even have many foundation establishment techniques. How could he fight with a golden core cultivator? At this moment, a golden core cultivator's divine sense swept over, and Xiaohua had no choice but to stop and wait respectfully in the air. After a while, an unfamiliar cultivator swaggered over and looked at Xiaohua and said coldly, "Which sect are you from? You just entered the Foundation establishment realm, and you dare to come to the depths of the Flame Forest Swamp? Do you not want to live anymore?" "Senior, please no. I am a disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect and followed martial uncle Zhen Yi here. However, because we were separated by accident, I am here to find martial uncle Zhen Yi. May I know if Senior is my martial uncle?" Xiaohua controlled his temper and asked respectfully. "Imperial Thunder sect? Zhen Yi?" The Golden Core cultivator was clearly happy when he heard Zhen Yi's name. He said with a smile, "I was wondering why Martial Nephew's flying speed was different from others. So you are a disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect. Does Martial Nephew know the lightning escape technique?" Ah. Xiaohua saw the Golden Core cultivator's attitude, and suddenly became a Martial Nephew. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. He bowed and said, "Junior's lightning escape technique is only at the entry level. It can't be said that I know it." "It's already not bad," the Golden Core cultivator said with a smile. "May I know if fellow Daoist Zhen Yi's lightning escape technique has reached mastery?" Xiaohua really couldn't continue chattering with this cultivator. He said with a smile, "Junior doesn't know about martial uncle Zhen Yi, but I'm afraid he hasn't reached mastery either." And the Golden Core cultivator nodded and said, "I am Xie Zhiqian from the Immortal Ascension sect. I have long heard of the Imperial Thunder sect's lightning escape technique. I have also long heard of fellow Daoist Zhen Yi's reputation." Xiaohua was happy when he heard this. He said with a smile, "My martial uncle is probably in front. If Senior Xie has time, there is no harm in letting Junior lead the way. You will definitely be able to see my martial uncle. Chapter 1904. Alas, what a pity. Xie Zhiqian looked back at the flame forest swamp and shook his head. I just found one thing, I need to find another one. I'm afraid I can't go. Xiaohua was very disappointed and smiled apologetically. In that case, I won't waste Senior Xie's time, please, haha, don't worry. Xie Zhiqian clapped his hand and took out a jade slip. He immersed his divine sense in it and wrote something on it. He handed it to Xiaohua and said, "This is for fellow Daoist Jun. Please give it to him on my behalf. I have something to discuss with fellow Daoist Jun, so please pass it to him." No problem. Xiaohua accepted it with a smile. Xie Zhiqian took out another medicinal pill and said with a smile, "There is a saying in the mortal world that an emperor does not lack hungry soldiers. Martial nephew Minghua, please accept this pill as a token of my appreciation." Seeing that Xie Zhiqian was so amiable and approachable, truly worthy of the qian in his name, Xiaohua was somewhat flattered. He hurriedly took it and said with a smile, "I don't dare to disobey an elder's words, and I don't dare to refuse an elder's gift. Senior Xie, please rest assured, this junior will definitely take care of this matter. And I will wait for fellow Daoist Jun's message." Xie Zhiqian cupped his hands and flew away with a smile. After Xie Zhiqian left, Xiaohua looked at his back and thoughtfully said, "Ming country's immortal ascension sect? Why did a Ming country cultivator come to my country of Xi's flame forest swamp?" Then he looked at the jade slip in his hand and put it in his storage bag. He said self-deprecatingly, "They are looking for Martial Uncle Zhenyi, not me. Why do I think so much?" After flying for half a day, the number of cultivators they met became less and less. The fire lake under their feet gradually became bigger and bigger. The sun-moon corona also began to feel erratic. However, Xiaohua's heart relaxed a lot. Since the sun-moon corona was moving, it meant that Shuai was fine. Just as Xiaohua was flying past the edge of a fire lake, a large group of fire bats suddenly flew out from their habitat at the edge of the lake and rushed towards Xiaohua. Xiaohua could practically see the sharp fangs in the mouth of the closest fire bat. Damn it! Xiaohua cursed angrily. He opened his mouth, and the dream executioner flying sword flew out. 8 sword lights flew into the group of fire bats. Then he slapped his hand and the cloud-suppressing seal flew out of the space, sprinkling a bronze brilliance to protect himself. However, the dream executioner was unstoppable. Every time it flashed, it would kill a few fire bats. The fire bats were immediately thrown into chaos. Xiaohua also didn't want to stay for too long. With a wave of his hand, dozens of fireball talismans smashed into the air, causing the fire bats to become dizzy and disoriented. Then he increased his speed and flew over the fire lake. By the time the fire bats regrouped and looked for Xiaohua again, where would there be any trace of him? It should be here. Xiaohua didn't stop in the slightest. He waited until he arrived at a place densely packed with stone spikes before he stopped in midair. However, he saw that there was no fire lake in this area of several hundred li. There were only stone spikes that pierced into the air. These stone spikes were of different sizes, and they were all reddish-brown in color. There wasn't the slightest bit of vegetation on them. Xiaohua paused for a moment. He only heard the sound of wind blowing through the spikes. There wasn't any other movement. He carefully released his divine sense again. There wasn't any special place within a few dozen li. Not only were there no cultivators, even the fire bats and fire bats were nowhere to be seen. Not to mention the fire apes and lightning beasts. Strange. Xiaohua used ordinary flying techniques and slowly cruised in the air. He constantly released his divine sense to find the whereabouts of the sun-moon corona. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, suddenly, in a very short period of time, the aura of the sun-moon corona appeared about 10 li to the west of Xiaohua. Xiaohua immediately activated the bright thunder escape. The distance of 10 li was covered in an instant. It's here. Xiaohua's figure descended, and right under a mountain range of stone spikes, he found a cave that was several zhang in size hidden under that craggy boulder. This cave was very well hidden. If it wasn't for the aura of the sun-moon corona, Xiaohua definitely wouldn't have been able to find it. Xiaohua landed beside the cave and released his divine sense. He actually found that there were some incomplete restrictions inside the cave. It was precisely these restrictions that were blocking the aura of the sun-moon corona. This is not good. Xiaohua thought for a moment. He waved his hand and took out the invisibility talisman. Under the urging of his magic power, it turned into a shining talisman. Xiaohua patted his hand and placed it on his body. Xiaohua's figure gradually disappeared. Although the restrictions of the cave had blocked the aura of the sun-moon corona, they couldn't stop Xiaohua from entering. Xiaohua easily entered the cave. However, using the invisibility talisman didn't allow him to use his magic power. Xiaohua could only walk along the uneven path inside the cave. However, after entering a few dozen zhang, Xiaohua had no choice but to use his magic power. Because the outside of the cave looked normal, there was no fire lake. However, the inside of the cave was huge. The lava was like an underground river, flowing everywhere. There were many places where there were no paths at all. One could only rely on magic power to fly through. Xiaohua became even more worried when he saw that the further they went, the deeper the cave became. Moreover, the surrounding environment also became increasingly worse. He clearly understood Shueshue's cultivation. In this kind of scorching hot place where lava constantly flew out, Shueshue only had the strength to protect herself. If the fire ape were to attack her, she would not be able to withstand it. I have to hurry, Xiaohua thought. He quickly increased his flying speed and flew towards the aura of the sun-moon corona. However, after flying for a cup of tea's time, an arrogant, cold, and tyrannical divine sense suddenly swept out from the depths of the cave. It swept past Xiaohua's body and rushed out of the cave. Because it sensed Xiaohua's existence, the divine sense immediately swept back, trying to lock onto Xiaohua. Xiaohua was shocked. Without hesitation, he stopped using his magic power. His whole body fell into the lava like a rock. He used the fire-earth escape technique to hide his body. However, just as Xiaohua fell into the lava, a swarm of fire rats swam over. They disgustingly tore at the light protecting Xiaohua's body. Damn it! Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Seeing that the divine sense didn't find anything in the air, it immediately swept towards the lava. Moreover, the sharp teeth of the fire rats were extremely fierce. In a short moment, they swallowed a lot of Xiaohua's escape technique's light. Xiaohua was helpless. His body flew towards the wall next to the lava. When Xiaohua disappeared into the wall, the fire rats resentfully swam to different parts of the lava. Xiaohua appeared from the other side of the wall. He immediately activated the invisibility talisman, and then quietly released his Buddhist sense. Sure enough, the divine sense couldn't find anything in the air. It dived into the lava again, and carefully searched around. It even swept past the place where Xiaohua was. Fortunately, the invisibility talisman could avoid the detection of divine sense. That Buddhist sense was also mysterious. Divine sense couldn't detect it. After a cup of tea's time, the divine sense withdrew into the depths of the cave. Previously, Xiaohua didn't dare to move. He waited for a moment before he activated his magic power, and continued to fly in the direction where the divine sense withdrew. Xiaohua's Buddhist sense also followed him into the depths of the cave. Soon, Xiaohua's Buddhist awareness tracked down the entrance of an immortal's cave. Although the immortal's cave was not closed, there was obviously a restriction that prevented Buddhist awareness from entering. Only when Xiaohua was about 10 feet away from the immortal's cave did he stop. He activated the invisibility talisman, and approached the entrance of the immortal's cave step by step. Just as Xiaohua approached the cave mansion, the same divine sense swept out from the cave mansion. It swept past Xiaohua's body twice before sweeping into the distance. Xiaohua didn't dare to move. He stood there obediently and waited for the divine sense to return. Then he walked step by step towards the entrance of the cave mansion. The door of the cave mansion was open. Xiaohua walked in without asking. However, when he saw the situation inside the cave mansion, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Then his hair stood on end. What entered Xiaohua's eyes was a huge cave mansion. This cave mansion was filled with corpses and bones. Not only was the ground covered in white beast bones, But the entire cave mansion was also filled with a hot aura and an incomparably fishy odor. Before Xiaohua had time to clearly see the situation inside the cave mansion, he heard a thunderous beast roar coming from the corner of the cave mansion. It was the roar of the thunder beast that Xiaohua had heard before. This roar attracted Xiaohua's gaze. When Xiaohua saw the situation in the corner, he couldn't help but be even more furious. He saw two huge thunder beasts standing in the corner. One of them was the one that Xiaohua had seen before. Its body was covered in blood, and it was missing a wing. The other was shorter than the thunder beast by a head, but its body was much fatter. Its two large breasts were exposed and swaying. Looking to the left of the two thunder beasts, Xiaohua saw a few familiar people. Zhen Yi, Feng Shuqing, Lu Mingxing, Jiang Zhucheng, and a female cultivator's corpse were lying on the ground. Zhen Yi and the other 3 gold core cultivators' abdomens had been dug open, and their flesh was badly mangled. Their skulls were also clawed open, revealing fist-sized black holes. Clearly, their brains had been eaten by the 2 thunder beasts. At this time, the 2 thunder beasts were hysterically roaring at the corner of the cave mansion. Through their flapping wings, Xiaohua saw that Shueishue's face was deathly pale. She spread her arms like an old hen protecting her chicks. Behind him, Xiang Yang and Yan Qinglian's mouths were stained with blood. Their Taoist robes were also stained with blood. Their eyes were filled with panic roar. The female thunder beast suddenly spread its wings and stretched out its pitch-black claws, wanting to grab Shueishue's skull. Xiaohua was greatly alarmed. Without hesitation, he spat out the execution dream from his mouth. It instantly flew out and split into 8 sword lights, stabbing towards the thunder beast. As for the male thunder beast, it was also strange. It actually waved its hand, wanting to block the female thunder beast's claws. But at this time, the 2 thunder beasts simultaneously turned towards Xiaohua. Seeing Xiaohua's flying sword attack, the 2 thunder beasts no longer cared about Shueishue and the others. They simultaneously turned around and opened their mouths. One beast wanted to block Xiaohua's flying sword with a lightning net in its mouth, while the other beast spat out a lightning net that flickered with blue brilliance towards Xiaohua's head. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qidian.com to vote for it. Chapter 1905. Xiao darling, be careful. Shueishue's eyes flashed with surprise, and then she cried out. Quickly run away. Xiaohua's heart warmed. He clapped his hand, and the cloud-suppressing seal flew out. It flashed with a bronze light and flew towards the lightning net. Pung. With a burst of noise, the cloud-suppressing seal flashed out several clouds and randomly smashed onto the lightning net. The lightning net flashed violently and effortlessly annihilated the clouds. Go! Xiaohua pointed his finger, and once again urged his magic power. The cloud-suppressing seal suddenly expanded and pressed down on the lightning net. ZZ. Under the thunder beast's control, the thunder net abruptly wrapped around the entire suppressing cloud seal. Flickering threads of lightning surrounded the suppressing cloud seal. The faint brilliance surrounding the suppressing cloud seal was extremely powerful. This innate divine ability was not something an ordinary magic treasure could compare to. Go! At the same time Xiaohua took out the cloud-suppressing seal, he spat out a mantra. His sword art did not delay at all. 3 sword lights flashed and rushed into the other lightning net. The other 5 turned in the air, dodged the lightning net, and flew towards the male lightning beast. Xiaohua had advanced to the foundation realm, and his divine sense had increased greatly. It could actually cover an area of several dozen li, which was several times larger than a normal foundation realm cultivator's 10 li. Of course, it was still a bit smaller than the maximum range of 100 li for a golden core realm cultivator. However, this divine sense was barely enough to control 2 magic treasures. It was much better than before when he could only control 1. Roar! The male lightning beast saw the dream executioner flying over, and was slightly shocked. The negative karma on the dream executioner was very sensitive to spiritual beasts, and it was the most frightening thing. The male lightning beast did not dare to be careless. It flapped its wings, and its body quickly turned around, wanting to dodge. Unfortunately, one of its wings was already damaged, and the other flapped. It could not fly. Instead it staggered, and its body was unstable. Whoosh! Whoosh! Whoosh, whoosh. 5 sharp sword lights pierced through the air, and the dream executioner stabbed in front of the male lightning beast. The male lightning beast had no choice but to use its 2 sharp claws to grab. The lightning between the claws was still flashing, but it was obvious that the lightning was much weaker than before. Pa, there was no suspense. The 2 sword lights were instantly struck by the male lightning beast's claws. After a few flashes, they disappeared. Xiaohua's divine sense also felt like it was struck by lightning. It was abnormally painful. Xiaohua clenched his teeth. He didn't expect the thunder beast's attack to be this powerful. He urged his sword art again, and the 3 sword lights that were already close to the male thunder beast accelerated again, stabbing towards the male thunder beast's armpit and chest. With a piercing sound, the 3 sword lights pierced into the male lightning beast's body at the same time. As expected, 3 protective lightning bolts appeared on the male lightning beast's body. The 3 lightning bolts that looked like Xiaohua blocked the 3 sword lights. Humph! Xiaohua coldly snorted. He urged his magic power, and the 3 sword lights suddenly began to rotate. Immediately, the areas where the male lightning beast's protective lightning bolts were shining like fireworks. The 3 sword lights actually had the tendency to break through the male lightning beast's defenses. Roar! The male lightning beast was greatly alarmed and roared. The female lightning beast originally wanted to urge the lightning net again, but seeing the male lightning beast in such a hurry, she had no choice but to turn around. She waved her 2 hands, and 2 lightning bolts appeared, striking 2 of the sword lights. The male lightning beast hurriedly swatted the last sword light away. Grandmom, this thunder beast's attack can actually hit divine sense through flying swords. Xiaohua was somewhat miserable. Taking advantage of the female lightning beast helping the male lightning beast, while complaining, he used the lightning escape technique and flew toward Shui. Woo! The female lightning beast's divine sense swept over, and it was furious. It flapped its pitch-black wings, and its short and fat body flew up slightly slowly. It waved a lightning bolt toward Xiaohua's side. This female lightning beast seems to have a problem. Only now did Xiaohua see that the female lightning beast's abdomen was bulging. It seemed to be pregnant. But in this life and death situation, Xiaohua didn't dare to be compassionate. His body shook, and with a phoenix cry, his phoenix Dharma body flew out. Its huge wings flapped, and the lightning bolt was blocked by the Dharma body. When the female lightning beast suddenly saw Xiaohua's phoenix Dharma body, it was also stunned. Then, when it saw Xiaohua taking the opportunity to fly toward Shui and the others, it became even more furious. It flapped its wings, and directly rushed towards the phoenix Dharma body. The phoenix Dharma body's sharp claws swiped down. With a pung sound, the female lightning beast's claws unhesitatingly hit the Dharma body's claws. The Dharma body trembled for a moment, and was knocked back more than 4 chi. Roar! The female lightning beast's body only trembled slightly, and then it went to grab Xiaohua's back. Seeing that the blue lightning bolt was about to hit Xiaohua, Xiaohua slightly waved his hand, and his smiling face revealed his white teeth. Then he suddenly waved his left hand, and a huge devil hammer was taken out from the space. With a woo sound, it smashed towards the female lightning beast's abdomen. From the sound of the wind, the female lightning beast knew the strength of the devil hammer. How could she dare to let the devil hammer get close to her? Without hesitation, she retracted her hand, and the lightning bolt shot towards the devil hammer. Her sharp claws also blocked in front of her abdomen. Pung, seeing that the devil hammer had succeeded, Xiaohua didn't hesitate. He waved his hammer 3 times in a row, and the lightning beast had no choice but to use its sharp claws to block. Admittedly, the lightning beast's strength could split a lion and a tiger, but Xiaohua's strength was even more terrifying. After 3 hammer strikes, the female lightning beast's body trembled continuously. Its arms were weak, and it was almost unable to raise them. Again, Xiaohua shouted, and once again raised the devil hammer. Gathering all the strength in his body, he smashed it towards the female lightning beast's abdomen. The female lightning beast's fierce eyes were also filled with determination. Without hesitation, it raised its arms and used its elbows to block the devil hammer. With a loud pung, the female lightning beast's whole body was sent flying, and fell into a pile of white bones. Moreover, the moment the female lightning beast landed, its face suddenly turned pale, and its whole body trembled incessantly. Its broken arms struggled to reach its abdomen, which was starting to squirm violently. Rumble, the male lightning beast flew to Xiaohua's side with great difficulty, blocking Xiaohua from flying towards the female lightning beast. It opened its mouth, and a lightning beast's inner core that was flashing with blue light flew out. It flashed with a frightening brilliance and smashed towards Xiaohua. Not good. The inner core's attack was comparable to a magic treasure, and it was even more flexible than a magic treasure. Xiaohua wanted to try using the devil hammer, but he didn't dare. With a wave of his hand, the sun leaf fan appeared in his hand, and without hesitation he waved it. A fire dragon was born and rushed towards the inner core. Unexpectedly, the inner core didn't dodge at all. The flickering lightning easily destroyed the fire dragon, and continued to smash towards Xiaohua's head. Chapter 1906. Go! Xiaohua's figure quickly retreated. He pointed his finger, and the suppressing cloud seal flew over. Another loud pung sound rang out. The suppressing cloud seal was hit by the inner core, and it continuously flipped a few times in midair. It was entangled by lightning, and fell to the ground. Damn it, how can it be so powerful? Xiaohua was greatly shocked. He hurriedly opened his mouth, and that scarlet spirit fire flew out. Xiaohua did not hesitate and pointed his hand. More than half of his magic power gushed out, and that scarlet flame rushed towards the thunder beast's inner core. As soon as the spiritual fire appeared, the entire cave was filled with a crimson brilliance. Although the scorching heat did not change, the thunder beast could clearly sense the difference in the spiritual fire and immediately became anxious. Seeing the spiritual fire fly towards its Niden, the male thunder beast did not dare to be negligent. A thumb-sized thunderbolt was produced from its Niden and rushed into the long and thin crimson flame. See, the lightning was actually melted by the scarlet flame. Roar! The male lightning beast turned pale with fright. How could it dare to let its inner core touch this scarlet flame? It hurriedly opened its mouth, wanting to suck back the core. But right at this moment, a sorrowful cry rang out. The female lightning beast that had just fallen to the ground was rolling around on the white bones, and beneath its body, dirty blood flowed all over the ground. Good. Seeing this, Xiaohua did not care about morality, and hurriedly pointed his finger at the spirit fire. It continued to fly towards the male lightning beast while he himself flew in front of Xue Xue. Quickly go! Xiaohua waved his hand and said, Eldest senior brother and senior sister-in-law are injured and cannot fly. Xue Xue did not care about anything and hurriedly said, Let me. Xiaohua walked in front of eldest senior brother and senior sister-in-law and hurriedly said, Excuse me, senior sister-in-law. As he said, he stretched out his hand and grabbed a person's arm with one hand. He turned around and was about to fly out, but at this moment, he heard an extremely shrill roar in the entire cave house. Then, the cave house that was originally annihilated by the scarlet spiritual fire was covered with a thick layer of blood color. Xiaohua hurriedly turned his head and saw the male lightning beast standing in the center of the cave. It seemed to not care about the spirit fire flying towards it. The blood all over its body flew out and fell around the cave. A layer of blood light also rose around the cave and quickly wrapped around the entire cave. Blood seal. A thought immediately appeared in Xiaohua's mind. This blood-colored seal was the innate ability of certain spiritual beasts of the 5th rank and above. At the most critical moment, the spiritual beast's life and blood essence would be sacrificed to form an extremely powerful restriction around its body. This restriction only had the effect of sealing and suppressing, so it was called a seal. However, any living creature within the blood-colored seal, unless their cultivation was 2 ranks higher than the spiritual beast, would not be able to break the seal. Xiaohua understood the meaning of the blood-colored seal, and his expression immediately changed. Although he could take the risk and rush to the entrance of the cave, he only had Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian. Xue Xue was not in his hands. How could he abandon Xue Xue? Junior brother. Xiangyang glanced at Yan Qinglian, and tenderness appeared in his eyes. Yan Qinglian immediately understood Xiangyang's meaning, and stuck the escape talisman on Xiaohua's body. Without waiting for Xiaohua to speak, Xiangyang placed his hand on his forehead. Hurry up and activate the escape talisman. Otherwise, even if you save me from here, I will definitely die from shaking my head. Eldest senior brother, Xiaohua was greatly sorrowful, but seeing the determination in Xiangyang's eyes and Yan Qinglian's hand holding Xiangyang's, he did not dare to delay in the slightest. He loosened his hand and Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian both fell to the ground. Let's go. Xiaohua did not hesitate and pulled Shueshue who was beside him. Shueshue saw Yan Qinglian take out the escape talisman and understood long ago. She immediately took out her own escape talisman. At this moment, hearing Xiaohua's command, she immediately activated her magic power, and the two of them immediately concealed themselves and disappeared from the cave. Xiaohua activated the escape talisman, and immediately felt his vision darken. But in an instant, that blackness turned into a blood-red color that filled the sky. At the same time, a torrent-like oppressive feeling chased after Xiaohua from behind. Xiaohua understood that this was a blood-red seal that was sealing off the space. If he was caught by this blood-red color that filled the sky, then he would be sealed inside just like Xiangyang. Of course, this was only for an instant. As if he was forcefully pushed out of the door by someone else, Xiaohua's eyes lit up and his entire body stopped in midair. And about a foot behind him was precisely the blood-red seal. Only feeling that his palm was wet, Xiaohua turned his head to look. Shueshue's face was similarly devoid of color. Like an injured little bird, she pulled on Xiaohua's arm, lovely and moving. Shueshue, Xiaohua said warmly. We are fine. Xiaohua, Shueshue murmured and recklessly rushed into Xiaohua's embrace. She desperately hugged Xiaohua and used all her strength as if she wanted to pull Xiaohua into her body. After the time it took to smoke a cigarette, Shueshue lifted her small face from Xiaohua's embrace. At this time, her face was somewhat pale, and there were many traces of tears on her face. She asked, Xiaohua, where did you go? It's a long story. Xiaohua thought for a moment and said, I was killed by that bastard Xiang Min, and was teleported to another array. As soon as I escaped danger, I immediately found the aura of the sun-moon corona and chased after it. So that's how it is. Shueshue took out the sun-moon corona from her embrace and handed it to Xiaohua. She said mournfully, It seems this concubine shouldn't have taken the sun-moon corona away. Otherwise, it wouldn't have harmed the lives of eldest senior brother and eldest senior sister-in-law. Xiaohua understood Shueshue's thoughts. He knew that if he didn't come, Shueshue would protect Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian. Although the female lightning beast wanted their lives, with the male lightning beast by their side, the two of them might not necessarily be in danger. Shueshue, if you say so, then this husband, won't he feel even more guilty? Xiaohua shook his head. You've already done your best. Ancestor Zhen and the others have already died in the hands of the lightning beast. It's already not easy for eldest senior brother and eldest senior sister-in-law to be protected by you until now. Sooner or later they will become the lightning beast's food. Shueshue was sad and lowered her head. Perhaps. What do we do now? Shueshue took a deep breath and asked. What is this blood-red thing? The lightning beast can't come out? This is called the blood-red seal. Xiaohua said. I'm afraid the male lightning beast is already dead. The female lightning beast is giving birth. I don't know what the result is. For its own child, the male lightning beast, is also in trouble. Shueshue didn't ask why Xiaohua knew about the blood-red seal. She stared at the seal for a long time and sighed. Then this lowly concubine and Xiaohua should leave. Xiaohua, you've already built your foundation? Only now did Shueshue notice that Xiaohua had already built his foundation. She couldn't help but be surprised. This lowly concubine already knew that Xiaohua would definitely build his foundation. We just arrived at the Flame Forest Swamp, and this trip has already produced results. Haha, Xiaohua forced a smile and said. It's just gathering, there's no need to talk about it. Then he looked at the seal and scanned it with his divine sense for a long time, then said, I'm afraid we can't leave now. What? Shueshue was anxious. When the female lightning beast breaks the seal and comes out, won't we die without a burial place? Xiaohua shook his head and said, The situation was urgent just now. It was simply a matter of life and death. So I didn't have time to think carefully. Just as I left the cave and relaxed, I felt that we didn't have to run away just now. Ah, why? Shue stared blankly and asked curiously. The male lightning beast has already died, and the female lightning beast has already given birth. It simply doesn't have the power to fight back. I only need to kill the female lightning beast. An eldest senior brother and eldest senior sister-in-law won't die. Even now, eldest senior brother and eldest senior sister-in-law might not necessarily die. Xiaohua said with some regret. Shue thought for a moment and said with a smile. This lowly concubine understands, but you don't seem to have any confidence in breaking this blood seal, right? Xiaohua nodded sadly and said. With my cultivation, I simply can't break it. You didn't think of it, but eldest senior brother probably thought of it. Shue smiled sadly. Eldest senior brother doesn't want you to accompany him in the seal for the rest of your life. Xiaohua raised his head and stared straight at the seal. He shook his head and said, Eldest senior brother simply doesn't know, he simply didn't think of it, he simply doesn't know anything, he just didn't want to drag me down. So he threatened me with death. So benevolent and righteous. Worthy of being Xiaohua's eldest senior brother. Shue said very virtuously. Xiaohua is truly fortunate to have such a eldest senior brother. That's right. Xiaohua said with a smile. So, I can't leave. I have to think of a way to break the seal here. Even if eldest senior brother and eldest senior sister-in-law died, I still have to bring their bodies back to the Imperial Thunder Sect, to the Myriad Thunder Valley. Okay. Shue also nodded resolutely. Moreover, your husband's flying sword, cloud-suppressing seal, and that little bit of spiritual fire. Because I fled too hurriedly, they were all left behind in the seal. I'm afraid that your husband can't easily leave, Xiaohua said again. Shue pondered for a moment and nodded. That's right, that spiritual fire is so powerful that even 6th grade spirit beasts are afraid of it. Of course it can't be left here. Seeing that Shue didn't ask about the origins of his flying sword and spiritual fire, Xiaohua didn't explain. After letting Shue take some medicinal pills to adjust her breathing, Xiaohua set up a rabbit formation near the seal. He and Shue hid inside it, and then carefully thought about how to break the seal. Now Xiaohua already understood that his memories of the Chao Wu's soul essence, the 5 spirits, and the blood seal all came from the flame soul essence. And after the Chao Wu's soul essence was absorbed by the Phoenix Dharma body, its memories were also given to Xiaohua. This blood seal might be relying on the Chao Wu's soul essence. Of course, the memories of these spirit beasts and vicious beasts weren't Xiaohua's own. Only when he encountered a question could he find the answer. If he directly looked for the question, he still couldn't find the answer. The blood seal was exactly what Xiaohua knew. It was the last method that some extremely powerful innate spirit beasts used to perish together. It was the most troublesome. If one wanted to break it, one must be 2 ranks higher than a high-grade spirit beast. In other words, only 8th-grade spirit beasts could break it. This was also the strength required to break it from inside. 8th-grade spirit beasts, that was the cultivation of early nascent soul stage. Only nascent soul stage cultivators of the Imperial Thunder Sect could possibly break this seal. If they were confident, they would have to be in the middle or late nascent soul stage. Chapter 1907. Xiaohua thought for a long time, but he had no clue. He thought of going back to the Imperial Thunder Sect to ask for help. But obviously, Xiang Yang and Yin Qinglian were only Foundation Establishment middle-stage cultivators. In the Myriad Thunder Valley, they were considered the mainstay, but in the Imperial Thunder Sect, they were nothing. Seeing how Xiaohua killed 2 Foundation Establishment initial-stage cultivators in the Imperial Thunder Sect without attracting any attention, Xiaohua knew that it might not be useful if he went back to ask for help. Moreover, the Myriad Thunder Valley was helpless because there were no nascent soul stage cultivators on good terms. Or asked Zhenqing, Gantian. Senior Sun Ming. Xiaohua thought for a while and shook his head. These 3 seniors are only golden core stage cultivators. It is not realistic to ask them to trouble nascent soul stage cultivators. or directly ask Thunder Mengjinren. Although Xiao Hua had the sect master token in his hand, he did not dare to ask the Imperial Thunder Sect Master. The best he could think of was Thunder Mengjinren. That is a nascent soul stage cultivator. Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. He was not so naive as to ask Thunder Mengjinren for help after meeting him twice, and having a good impression of him. Yes, there is still Zhen Yi. Xiao Hua suddenly thought of Zhen Yi who died in the cave. Zhen Yi is a golden core stage cultivator, and also an alchemist of the Thunder Palace. He will definitely be valued by Thunder Mengjinren. And there is no need to go through so much trouble. How can Thunder Mengjinren not come after knowing that there are lightning beasts here? Xiao Hua immediately stood up. But just as he stood up, he hesitated. Yes, Thunder Mengjinren opened the seal and saved Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian. But what about his spiritual fire? What about his flying sword? Wouldn't it fall into Thunder Mengjinren's eyes? Moreover, that is the inner core of a lightning beast. What if Thunder Mengjinren has some thoughts that he does not want others to know? Shui, Xiangyang, Yan Qinglian and himself, are we all going to? Xiao Hua did not dare to continue thinking. Although he really wanted to have a good impression of Lei Meng Daoist, but after all, he had never seen Lei Meng Daoist twice. He did not dare to take the risk. Because of the inner cores of the two lightning beasts in the seal, Xiao Hua did not dare to ask others to help him open the seal. I can only think of a way. Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. He looked at Shui, who had a serene expression. As long as she was by his side, she would always feel safe. He stood up and walked out of the formation. The cave abode in front of Xiao Hua was still wrapped in blood. It was quiet, like a cocoon. Xiao Hua walked to the front and released his Buddhist consciousness and divine sense. They could not enter, and he could not sense the dream slayer, spiritual fire, and other things. Soon after, Xiao Hua took out the devil spear tip and stabbed it with all his might. The devil spear tip simply couldn't leave any traces. After that, he tried all kinds of magic treasures, such as the leaf sun fan and the aqua pearl. Even Xiao Hua released his phoenix celestial body, but the sharp claws were unable to do anything. How is it, husband? Shui also walked out of the formation and asked with concern. Sigh, it still doesn't work. Xiao Hua sighed. Don't worry, husband. We'll stay here with eldest senior brother. It doesn't matter if it's a day, a year, or even 10 years. You just have to slowly think about it. If you can easily break the blood seal of a 6th grade spiritual beast, wouldn't that be amazing? Shui consoled. And I know. Xiao Hua nodded. He looked around and asked, That's right, how did you all come here? Where's the fire ape? Where's Xiangmin and the others? Husband finally asked. Shui said with a smile. Soon after, she recounted what happened after Xiao Hua disappeared. As it turned out, after Xiao Hua was teleported, the 5 elements soul detention formation collapsed. The lightning beast and fire ape escaped from the valley. The 7 golden core cultivators brought their disciples and chased after them. Unexpectedly, just as they reached the mountain range, the fire ape and lightning beast separated and fled in different directions. Xiangmin, Zhang Qingguang, and Sun Shangkong naturally led their disciples to chase after the fire ape. Zhen Yi, Lu Mingxing, Jiang Zhucheng, and Feng Shuqing naturally chased after the lightning beast. However, the lightning beast's flying speed was extremely fast. Zhen Yi and the other 3 golden core cultivators were naturally able to catch up to it. The Imperial Thunder Sect was known for their lightning evasion. Although Xiangyang's lightning evasion was not good, he was still better than the other 2 Foundation Establishment middle-stage disciples from Xuanyan School. Furthermore, Feng Jiyu's flying technique was also extraordinary. Thus, they were able to chase after the lightning beast for so long. The lightning beast was already injured, so they were able to catch up to it. Moreover, they were able to kill it several times. Unfortunately, the lightning beast used its inner core to break through and escape. When they finally reached the lightning beast's immortal's cave, everyone was delighted. They thought that the lightning beast was at the end of its road and would not be able to resist. However, what welcomed them was actually another female lightning beast. Although this female lightning beast was pregnant, its emotions were explosive and it was very cunning. As soon as it saw them, It blocked the entrance of the Immortal's cave and killed Feng Shuqing by surprise. Then the two lightning beasts joined forces. They were equivalent to two middle-stage golden core cultivators. How could Zhen Yi Lu Mingsheng and Jiang Zhuqing be a match for them? However, after the female lightning beast swallowed Feng Jiyu's brain matter, it wanted to attack Shui again, but it was blocked by the male lightning beast. The female lightning beast then wanted to attack Xiang Yang and Yan Qinglian, but it was blocked by Shui. As a result, the male lightning beast only managed to injure the two of them, which also prevented the female lightning beast from attacking any further. As a result, for the next few days, it was all thanks to Shui's protection that Xiang Yang and Yan Qinglian's lives were saved. Today, however, the female lightning beast went berserk again, wanting to swallow Xiang Yang and Yan Qinglian's brains. That was why Xiaohua encountered it. Xiaohua was naturally somewhat puzzled. He did not know why the male lightning beast wanted to protect Shui. Perhaps it was because of the true blood in Shui's body? However, Shui did not mention it, so Xiaohua could not ask. After all, cultivators had their own secrets, and many of them could not be told to others. Alas, Martial Uncle Zhen, I bet you didn't expect there to be two lightning beasts. Xiaohua sighed. Sometimes it's better to be a little less greedy. That's true, but if it's related to lifespan, no one can be calm. Shui shook her head and said. Alas, Xiaohua sighed and returned to the formation. After thinking for a moment, he waved his hand and took out the method to control the spiritual fire. Previously, he felt that this thing was really obscure, and because he had to learn new words, he only looked at a little bit. Only now did he know that this fire art was so powerful. He was afraid that it would be of great use in the future. Moreover, it was the most powerful method he currently had. In addition, the spiritual fire was also left in the seal, so he could tamper with the spiritual fire. Unknowingly, several days passed. On this day, just as Shui was about to leave the formation, Xiaohua, who had been frowning and closed his eyes all this time, suddenly stood up from the ground with a whoosh. He laughed loudly and said, "The heavens have not forsaken me. This young master can use this method." Darling Xiao Shui also stopped in her tracks. She turned her head back to look in surprise. "You really have a way?" Don't be impatient. Although Xiaohua's eyes were somewhat apprehensive, his footsteps were firm. Chapter 1908. Outside the seal, Xiaohua closed his eyes and thought for a moment. He chose a place to sit cross-legged. With a wave of his hand, a shabby oil lamp was taken out from the space. Then, with a tap of his hand, a drop of oil flew out from the oil lamp. Xiaohua put away the oil lamp and waved his hand. The Samadhi true fire was created and burned the oil lamp. Unfortunately, the oil lamp did not change in the slightest under the Samadhi true fire. There was no sign of it being ignited. Hiss. Xiaohua took a deep breath. His face became more and more complicated. Then he opened his mouth and spat out the icicle jus flame, but it still could not ignite the oil lamp. What should I do? Xiaohua frowned. But then his eyes lit up. He simply absorbed the icicle jus flame into his body. He closed his eyes and cast a spell on the oil lamp. Then he released his Buddhist sense. Xiaohua's Buddhist sense passed through the lamp oil, and slowly used a secret technique of the divine fire art. After the time it took to light the lamp, a smile suddenly appeared on Xiaohua's face. Soon after, the lamp oil floated to the blood-colored seal, and lay flat on top of it. Xiaohua was very relaxed. He turned his head and said with a smile, "Eldest brother is saved." How? Shui could not help but ask. I can use a secret technique to contact the spiritual fire left in the seal. Right now, I'm controlling the spiritual fire to burn the seal. If it can burn it, the seal can be broken. Your spiritual fire is so powerful. Shui was dumbfounded. Even the blood-colored seal can be broken. Doesn't that mean it can break all the formations in the world? Xiaohua smiled bitterly. Wife, you're wrong. The Tao of formations is ever-changing. How can a cluster of spiritual fire be able to break it? Even if it's a seal, one must look at its attribute and see its flaws. If there are no changes after it is burned, it should be broken. If it causes other changes to the seal, of course it can't be broken. I'm just trying to see if it has any effect or if it will cause other changes. So it's like that. Shue's tone seemed to be somewhat disappointed. She felt that Xiaohua was omnipotent. You should cultivate. This spirit fire is only a weak connection. I don't know what's going on inside. Moreover, I'm afraid that breaking this blood-colored seal isn't something that can be completed in a short period of time. After the time it took to eat a meal, Xiaohua raised his eyes to look at Shui, who had been staring at him the entire time, and said, "Okay." Shui could be considered to be obedient to Xiaohua's words. She stood up and walked out of the formation. "Don't go too far. If there's anything, hurry up and send me a messaging talisman." Xiaohua still didn't forget to warn him. This sentence was very ordinary, but it was also very warm. It was like the wife of a mortal family going out, and the husband casually exhorted her. Shue's heart naturally warmed when she heard this. She turned her head and said, "I understand, husband. This lowly concubine will only go out for a moment, and will be back soon." Xiaohua then turned around and closed his eyes to control the spiritual fire that he could only sense a tiny bit. A day passed by quickly. Although Xiaohua had just entered foundation establishment, and his cultivation and spiritual sense had greatly improved, just relying on the secret technique of the divine flame art to control the spiritual fire was like a mortal using a needle to stand upside down on an on of wheat. The difficulty was self-evident. In just a day's time, Xiaohua was already extremely tired. He had no choice but to stop and rest for a bit. It's time to cultivate a foundation establishment cultivation technique. Xiaohua waved his hand and took out the furious flame arts that he had no choice but to be bestowed upon him. First, he looked through the elementary cultivation technique and meridians. He hesitated in his heart. My physique has now followed the tempering of my bones and has already become an earth attribute physique. If I cultivate a fire attribute cultivation technique, there will definitely be obstacles. Moreover, there might also be other drawbacks. I might not know when I just started cultivating, but if they appear in the middle or late stages of foundation establishment, wouldn't it be very bad? Also, eldest senior brother said it well. There are only 2 sets of meridians to cultivate. One set is formed by chi refinement, and the other set is formed by foundation establishment. These 2 sets are precisely the intersection of dragon and tiger, the harmony of yin and yang. My first set of meridians was tempered by a fire attribute cultivation technique. If the second set of meridians was tempered by an earth attribute cultivation technique, wouldn't it coincide with the principle of mutual promotion and suppression of the 2 attributes of fire and earth? Then, wouldn't it be easier for me to condense my core in the future? Thinking about the earth attribute cultivation technique, Xiaohua thought of the cultivation technique that he had obtained from the spirit husbandry sect disciples. Back then, he didn't mean to give it to Sun Shu and the others. He didn't expect that he would be able to use it today. Following which, Xiaohua took out the cultivation technique of the spirit husbandry sect and looked through it carefully. The cultivation technique of the spirit husbandry sect was called the earth expansion technique. It wasn't considered a high-grade cultivation technique. Just by looking at the meridians that it could open, one could tell that it would have limited prospects after successfully cultivating it. Furthermore, Xiaohua had seen many chi refinement cultivation techniques in the Imperial Thunder Sect's library, and had some understanding of cultivation techniques. However, Xiaohua didn't have much to pick at this moment. He couldn't possibly go back and ask Wu Hai for an earth attribute cultivation technique. He also couldn't wait to find a cultivation technique before cultivating. Forget it. Since I have the earth crystal Yao milk, even if the earth expansion technique is the lowest grade earth attribute cultivation technique, how can I not condense my core? Even if I take a few decades or even 100 years to condense my core, would I still be afraid of being ridiculed? Xiaohua laughed mischievously. He put away the rage flame technique and immersed his divine consciousness into the jade slip to carefully comprehend the earth amplification technique. Thus the days passed by. Every day, Xiaohua would use a secret technique to control the spiritual fire. When he was tired, he would cultivate the earth expansion technique. At this moment, Xiaohua wasn't in a hurry to use the earth crystal Yao milk. Instead, he slowly absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and slowly opened up his meridians. The cultivation technique became more and more refined under Xiaohua's meticulous carving. Other than the basic foundational cultivation technique, Xiaohua only comprehended the God Flame technique. He hoped that he could find some secret technique from it to save Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian faster. It was a pity that the God Flame technique was extremely obscure. Furthermore, it was the latter half of the technique, and the words were different. Although Xiaohua completely comprehended the jade letter that Gantian Mountain gave him, he felt that there was something wrong with it. There was a lot of content in the God Flame technique that was incongruous with the words, which made Xiaohua feel vexed. However, the secret technique that Xiaohua was using was going smoothly. It seemed like it was the simplest secret technique. Haha, great! Xiaohua had been cultivating in silence the entire time. He silently sat in front of the seal and controlled the spiritual fire. It wasn't until a month later that he suddenly laughed loudly, clapped his hands, and stood up. What's wrong, husband? Seeing that, Shueshue immediately stopped cultivating. Her face was filled with smiles as she looked at Xiaohua in anticipation. Xiaohua smiled. Everything that happened before was me using a secret technique to faintly control the spiritual fire. If I had confidence in my heart, I wouldn't dare to pat my chest. However, from today onwards, I can pat my chest. Haha, really? Husband, you are so amazing. Shueshue immediately pounced over and hugged Xiaohua. Feeling Shueshue's towering chest, Xiaohua smiled. Husband's chest doesn't seem to have anything to pat? Shueshue's face instantly turned red. However, she didn't leave Xiaohua's embrace. She rubbed against Xiaohua's embrace a few times and smiled. When eldest senior brother and senior sister-in-law come out, I will let you pat me properly. Ha ha ha. Great. Xiaohua kissed Shueshue's cherry lips. In the following days, the smile on Xiaohua's face became even brighter. His expression became even more at ease. Before the seal, he controlled the spiritual fire for even longer. Shueshue looked at her lover who was in high spirits from the side. Her face was filled with a sweet smile, but there was always a trace of gloominess that flashed across her face from time to time. That gloominess was like a dark cloud in the clear sky. Even if the sun was shining high up in the sky, the cool breeze couldn't blow it away. It was unknown when the thunder and lightning in the dark clouds would descend. Like this, several months passed. Counting with one's fingers, Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian had been trapped by the bloody seal for nearly a year. Shueshue's cultivation didn't make any progress, and there were no signs of foundation building. However, Shueshue didn't seem to be in a hurry at all. It was as if this kind of life, this kind of atmosphere, was what she needed. If it wasn't for the seal that needed to be broken, Shueshue almost hoped that this kind of cultivation could last forever. Shueshue often sat cross-legged beside Xiaohua to cultivate. She liked to see Xiaohua's serious and focused appearance. She liked to see Xiaohua's occasionally frown and the corners of his mouth curl up. She liked even more to smell the scent emitted from Xiaohua's body. She closed her eyes and cultivated peacefully. Of course, if she could be held in his arms and listen to his heartbeat, Shueshue would be even more satisfied. The Thunder Beast's cave abode was like a paradise. Although the Flame Forest swamp was filled with danger, and there were many ferocious beasts, none of them dared to come close. Even the fire rats and fire bats, which were everywhere in the lava, only dared to wander far away from the cave abode. None of them dared to come close. Therefore, not a single cultivator came here for training. Not a single accident came to disturb Shueshue and Xiaohua's peaceful life. It seemed that everything was going according to Shueshue's plan. Unfortunately, on this day, Xiaohua let out a long roar. His figure rose from the ground, and with a wave of his hand, the lamp oil that had been spread on the blood-colored light cocoon was taken into the space by Xiaohua. Afterward, Xiaohua's expression was both joyful and dignified. He slowly formed gestures on his hands. As the gestures were formed, Shueshue felt that the surrounding spiritual energy poured into Xiaohua's body like a hurricane, and all the spiritual power in Xiaohua's body gushed out. Go! Xiaohua loosened his hand and launched the gesture into the seal. Then he flicked his hand and put a few elixirs into his mouth. He stared at the seal with bright eyes, where the gesture was launched. In just a moment, a crimson light flashed on the blood-colored seal. The crimson light seemed particularly pure and dazzling in the scarlet seal. Before Shui could see it clearly, the crimson light flowed into Xiaohua's hand like mercury. Isn't it Xiaohua's spiritual fire? Rumble. Just as the spiritual fire fell into Xiaohua's hand, the entire blood-colored seal began to vibrate. The stagnant blood red began to boil like boiling hot water. Immediately, this blood red color seemed to be washed away by rain. It quickly faded away, revealing the original cave of the Thunder Beast. Xiaohua was about to cry out in joy, but he heard a baby cry from inside the cave Thunder Beast. Xiaohua immediately thought of the female Thunder Beast that was giving birth, and he couldn't help but be shocked. Chapter 1909. Eldest senior brother Xiaohua was shocked. He quickly took the spiritual fire in his hand and flew into the cave. At the same time, Shui was also very nervous. In this 1 year, they had planned many things, but the premise was that Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian had assassinated the Mother Lightning Beast. They had never thought that the Mother Lightning Beast could survive. If the Mother Lightning Beast lived, and Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian died, then wouldn't Xiaohua's 1 year of hard work be used as a wedding dress for the Mother Lightning Beast? Wouldn't it be helping the tyrant? There was a restriction in the cave, so Xiaohua's divine sense couldn't penetrate it. But before he could fly near the cave, Xiangyang's surprised voice sounded. Little junior brother, damn it! Xiaohua's heart was immediately relieved. Eldest senior brother, you almost scared little brother to death. Xiaohua said with a smile, patting his chest in an exaggerated manner that he didn't even want to pat. Thank the heavens, Shui patted Xiaohua's long-awaited chest and cried out in joy. Ah? Eldest senior brother? Xiaohua was 1 step ahead of Shui when he flew into the cave. He was shocked again, and Shui's heart was in suspense. Shui hurriedly increased her speed and flew into the cave. The Xiangyang in front of her really gave Shui a shock. Previously, Xiangyang's hair was white, and he looked like an old man. But now, although there were still some wrinkles on his face, his hair was already dark and he looked almost 20 years younger. Eldest senior brother, you took the lightning beast's inner core? Shui immediately cried out in surprise. Xiaohua also laughed loudly. Eldest senior brother can't be old even if you want to. Wah! Another baby's cry rang out. Xiaohua curiously looked over and said, Good, this lightning beast cub is already a year old. Why isn't it dead yet? This Xiangyang's face was full of embarrassment. He even said with a red face, No, it's not the lightning beast, it's Xiangjili. Xiangjili? Xiaohua was stunned. He looked over and saw Yan Qinglian turn her head. In her arms, wasn't it a baby? Moreover, the baby's head was covered in white. What? Io, don't look at indecent things. Xiaohua suddenly called out and turned his eyes over. Shui was standing right next to him. His line of sight. Wasn't it precisely the blindingly white expanse that had been covered? Shui was also stunned, but then she naturally covered her hand, spat at Xiaohua, and quickly walked over. On the other side, Yan Qinglian's face was red. She wanted to come over, but she was too shy to come over. Eldest senior brother, what's going on? Xiaohua's voice stuttered as he pulled on Xiangyang's sleeve and asked. Hee. Xiangyang had a silly smile on his face. It was really a proud smile. He pulled Xiaohua's hand and said, Junior brother, follow me outside to talk. Oh, that's right. Xiaohua quickly walked out, and Xiangyang also came out. When Xiangyang proudly explained the matter, Xiaohua suddenly understood. He laughed loudly and patted Xiangyang's shoulder. Eldest senior brother. Oh, eldest senior brother, little brother and Shui had always been guessing how you and sister-in-law were doing inside, but we didn't expect. Eldest senior brother was really living a comfortable life. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have worked so hard day and night. Maybe later on there would even be a Xiangzi. Everyone, what do you think? It turned out that the heavens really blessed a loyal person like Xiangyang. After the male thunder beast used the blood seal to seal the entire cave, the male thunder beast died. At this time, the female thunder beast was giving birth. It was unknown whether it was because Xiaohua hit the female thunder beast and damaged the position of the thunder beast's fetus, or it was dangerous for a thunder beast to give birth. In short, the female thunder beast had a difficult birth. Blood kept flowing out, and it was impossible to stop it. Moreover, the thunder beast's baby was still not born. Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian originally wanted to kill the female thunder beast to save their own lives, but seeing this situation, Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian couldn't bear to do it. In the end, Yan Qinglian even helped the female thunder beast give birth. However, the heavenly Tao was fair. Thunder beasts were ferocious creatures in the world, and they were always obstructed by the heavenly Tao. The female thunder beast gave birth to the thunder beast's baby. With great difficulty, Yan Qinglian held the thunder beast's baby in her arms. She only licked the mucus off the thunder beast's body clean. The female thunder beast's eyes were filled with love as she passed away. However, the mother and child were connected by heart. When the female thunder beast passed away, she placed the thunder beast's little hand in Yan Qinglian's hand. She also didn't forget to pat her still protruding belly. At first, Yan Qinglian didn't understand. Later, many days after the female thunder beast died, Yan Qinglian suddenly understood. The female thunder beast was talking about its own Naiden. It wanted Yan Qinglian to take its Naiden in exchange for the life of the thunder beast's baby. The female thunder beast had planned this for a long time, but she didn't expect Yan Qinglian and Xiangyang to be so kind. The thunder beast's baby was just born. It didn't have wings at all, but it had a small tail. Its small hands and feet were curled up together. It was so pitiful, just like a pitch-black baby. How could Yan Qinglian bear to kill it? Later, for the sake of his Taoist foundation and lifespan, Xiangyang took out the male thunder beast's Naiden and refined it according to the secret method. The secret method was correct. Xiangyang's Taoist foundation was indeed repaired, but his lifespan should also be extended. However, the secret method didn't expect that the male thunder beast's Naiden was so strong that after Xiangyang used it, he didn't fall. For 49 consecutive nights, he beat the drum and challenged Xiangyang every night. Fortunately, Yan Qinglian was a foundation-building expert. It could be said that she met her match, a general meeting a talent. After 49 matches, Yin and Yang converged and finally gave birth to the Xiangjili that Xiangyang had been talking about for God knows how many years. And 10 months of pregnancy. That is 10 days ago, Yan Qinglian just gave birth to Xiangjili. Now it's not even a month old yet. Isn't she breastfeeding? Xiangyang heard Xiaohua's joke, but he didn't laugh. He turned around and called, "Qinglian, the lowly concubine is here." At this time, Yan Qinglian had finished breastfeeding Xiangjili. She tidied up her clothes and walked out with a plump and rosy face. When she saw Xiaohua, she couldn't help but blush again. Then, she looked at Xiangyang. The two nodded slightly. At the same time, they bent their legs and were about to kneel down. "Oh, you can't." When Xiaohua saw this, he was immediately alarmed. He brushed his hand and immediately grabbed the two people's arms. He called out, "Eldest senior brother, eldest senior sister, why are you waiting?" Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian simply didn't listen to Xiaohua. The magic power in their bodies rapidly revolved, and the divine abilities in their bodies surged. They were about to kneel down. "Hee, eldest senior brother and eldest senior sister. Are you going to test this little brother's cultivation?" Xiaohua chuckled mischievously. True essence flowed, and magic power was also used. It was the same situation that Xiangyang encountered before. No matter how much strength the two of them exerted, no matter how much they struggled, they didn't move an inch. They simply couldn't kneel down. Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian's eyes flashed with astonishment. Absolute astonishment. The magic power of two middle foundation building cultivators. This wasn't a battle of magic treasures. It was a true competition. They actually couldn't compare to Xiaohua. Chapter 1910. A trace of bitterness and helplessness flashed through Xiangyang's eyes. He said in a low voice, "Sai Qinglian, let's leave it at that." Junior brother isn't an outsider. Just let him know our thoughts. I'll listen to Lord Husband's instructions. Yan Qinglian knew that she couldn't kneel down, so she said hurriedly. That's right. If you have something to say, just say it. Why do you have to be like this? Xiaohua hurriedly helped the two up. Xiangyang said with a smile. Actually, there are two things I want to thank Junior brother for. The first is definitely to break this blood seal. It will allow brother and your senior sister-in-law to see the light of day again. It will also allow you, junior martial nephew, to return to the human world. Xiangyang's words were correct. Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian had also tried countless times to break this blood seal. Unfortunately, they couldn't even leave a trace on the seal. If it wasn't for Xiaohua, not to mention 1 year, even 10 years, 100 years, or 1,000 years, the two of them wouldn't be able to come out. Then Xiang Zhili wouldn't be able to see a third person. Eldest senior brother sacrificed himself to let junior brother escape. If junior brother didn't save junior brother, how could junior brother face others? Xiaohua said with a smile. Moreover, junior brother just happened to be able to break this seal and increase junior brother's cultivation by a lot. Why wouldn't junior brother do it? Junior brother, you actually built foundation? After reuniting from the calamity, Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian only now discovered that Xiaohua had built foundation. Congratulations, congratulations. Ha. Xiaohua laughed loudly. Junior brother had already built foundation when junior brother saw you 2 a year ago. Eldest senior brother's congratulations were late by a year. Of course, it was too urgent at that time. I really didn't expect junior brother to build foundation so quickly. Xiangyang said with a smile. Oh right, junior brother, inside the 5-element soul-capturing formation, cough cough. Yan Qinglian saw that Xiangyang changed the topic and immediately coughed twice. Hearing this, Xiangyang immediately woke up and said, Oh, just now I wanted to thank junior brother for saving my life. After that, I want to ask junior brother for a favor. Eldest senior brother, as long as junior brother can do it, I will agree. Xiaohua said with a smile. Oh, you're the one who said it. Xiangyang smiled, looking very sinister. What is it? Xiaohua had a bad feeling in his heart. It's very simple. Just make Xiangji worship you as his master. Yan Qinglian could not help but say. Ah? Xiaohua was completely stupefied and stuttered a bit. You're not mistaken, right, eldest senior sister-in-law? Yes, there's no mistake. Xiangyang nodded. I've discussed it with your sister-in-law. We want Xiangji to worship you as his master. You agreed to it. Don't, Xiaohua hurriedly shook his head and said. Eldest senior brother, this is something that I am unable to do, I definitely cannot agree to. Yan Qinglian was slightly disappointed, but Xiangyang persisted. Little junior brother, others may not know about your divine arts, but how could I not know? If I don't worship a good teacher like you, who should I worship? Sigh, Xiaohua sighed and said with a bitter smile. I've already used my divine sense to examine Xiang Zhili just now. All of his meridians have been opened, and he is born with the lightning attribute. Moreover, his physical body seems to be very good. This kind of cultivation genius is rare in the Imperial Thunder sect. He can even worship any nascent soul cultivator in the Imperial Thunder sect as his master, so why must he worship me as his master? Xiangyang smiled and said, I've long known about Lier's talent. First, it's the power of my lightning beast's inner core. Second, it's Qinglian's secret technique that cultivates the lightning escape. Both of these are inseparable from little junior brother. If you don't want to be his master, who can? This is the will of the heavens. Eldest senior brother, Xiaohua said firmly. You also know that I was born as a loose cultivator, and have always lacked a systematic and comprehensive understanding of cultivation. This is something that must be done as a master, right? Just based on this point, I definitely cannot be Lier's master. That's right. Xiangyang also came to a realization. Xiaohua was good in every way, and his divine arts were also outstanding, but his foundation was really too poor. He was absolutely unqualified to teach disciples. If Xiang Zhili were to be taught by Xiaohua, wouldn't he become a loose cultivator? Forget it, eldest senior brother, Xiaohua thought for a moment and said. I originally wanted to give him a gift, but I don't have anything suitable in my storage bag. How about this? When Li Er's cultivation is successful in the future, how about I give him a great divine art? Great divine art? Xiang Yang stared blankly. He himself knew that all the great techniques of nascent soul cultivators were called divine arts, and great divine arts naturally referred to the great techniques of spirit-severing cultivators and above. It was absolutely a secret technique of spirit-severing cultivators. Xiaohua had just reached the early stage of foundation establishment, and he actually promised Xiang Zhili a great divine art of spirit-severing cultivators. How could he not be stunned on the spot? This little junior brother, did he get it wrong again? This was Xiang Yang's first reaction. Thank you, little junior brother. Yan Qinglian at the side was overjoyed. She quickly hugged Xiang Zhili and was about to kneel down again. Don't. Xiaohua quickly held her again and said with a smile, It's not a big deal. When Li Er grows up, I will find something to teach him. Hehe, okay. Xiang Yang quickly put away his doubts and said with a smile. Great divine art, in Xiaohua's words, it's not a big deal. Damn it, Xiaohua. I don't know if he knows what a great divine art is. He actually dared to give it to someone so casually. Roar, a hoarse, weak, an extremely helpless voice came out from inside the cave. Lightning Beast. This voice was extremely soft, but also extremely familiar. Xiaohua couldn't help but call out. Xiaohua looked up and saw that Xue was also carrying a pitch-black baby that was less than a foot long. The baby's pitch-black skin was in stark contrast to Xue's white skin. Yes, this is the Lightning Beast cub, Xiang Yang said with a bitter smile. This thing is born like this. It doesn't know what to eat or drink. It doesn't use spirit herbs or pills. It doesn't even use your senior sister-in-law's milk. Previously, it would often cry, but now it has been more than a month. If it still doesn't cry, I'm afraid it won't make it. Xiaohua's divine sense swept over it. Sure enough, the Lightning Beast cub was extremely weak. If nothing unexpected happened, it would die today or tomorrow. Ai, poor child, Xue said in a low voice with a mournful look on her face. Of course, Xiang Zhili's parents were next to him. This Lightning Beast cub's parents had already passed away, so who could take care of it? If a vicious person took it, they would probably use it to refine some sinister magic weapon. Give it to me, Xiaohua said after thinking for a while. Darling Xiao, do you have a way? Xue was overjoyed and stretched out her arm to hand over the Lightning Beast cub. Xiaohua shook his head. I don't know, but since you all don't have a way, give it to me. Saying that, he took out a spirit storage bag and pretended to put it in, but actually sent it into the space. As soon as the Lightning Beast cub entered the space was instantly filled with lightning, which crackled as they struck the Lightning Beast. The lightning entered its body, but surprisingly, the Lightning Beast cub wasn't injured at all. It even opened its extremely cute little paws seductively. Damn it. This young master here. Xiaohua smiled bitterly as he thought of little Silver and the water pattern butterfly's eggs. Ai, if I had a spirit storage bag, little Lei wouldn't be like this. Xiang Yang sighed. Little Lei. Xiaohua was blank for a moment before he understood and smiled. Little Lei, that's a good name. Then he glanced at the cave abode again. Haha, little junior brother, there's no need to look anymore. There's nothing left in the cave abode. I've been inside for a year, Xiang Yang said as he patted Xiaohua on the shoulder. Hehe, it's nothing. I'm just looking at the Lightning Beast's corpse and helping little Lei bury it, Xiaohua said with a smile. Hehe, Xiang Yang pulled out 4 storage bags from his waist and handed them to Xiaohua. These are the things inside the cave abode. Apart from Martial Uncle Zhenyes, there's also what I left behind. They're all here. Take them. Martial Uncle Zhenyes. Xiaohua smacked his lips. He really did want Zhenyes' storage bag, because there would definitely be pill formulas inside. Unfortunately, Xiang Yang said, Martial Uncle Zhenyes' corpse and storage bag will be taken back to the Imperial Thunder Sect. I can't give them to you. Moreover, I've also taken the other half of the male Lightning Beast's core. After all, I have to give the sect an explanation. Of course, the female Lightning Beast's core, and the 2 lightning beasts' corpses are all in one storage bag. I don't need to give them to the sect. For storage bags. Big senior brother, you've given me too much. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, I only need 1. He take them. Xiangyang said indifferently. I've already counted them. My 10,000 Thunder Valley has been poor for a long time. I have to take some things back. In addition, there are some things that I can't give to my master. Otherwise, I'm willing to give everything to you. So it's like this. Xiaohua understood that Xiangyang had already taken a lot. These were all for him, so he took them without any hesitation and said with a smile, Thank you, big senior brother, for your generous gift. It's nothing. You deserve it. Xiangyang shook his head and said, Actually, everything in this cave should be given to you, don't. Xiaohua hurriedly waved his hand and said with a smile, Little brother's appetite is small. Just give me a little. Just give me a little. Shui looked at the 4 storage bags that Xiaohua took. All of them were high-grade goods. Xiangyang should have obtained them from the cultivators who were killed by the thunder beasts. Needless to say, the things inside these 4 storage bags were definitely not what Xiaohua meant by a little bit. Big senior brother, can we leave now? Xiaohua asked. Of course. When little junior brother's spiritual fire was about to burn the seal, I've already looked through the entire cave several times. Xiangyang replied. Okay. Xiaohua turned around and put away the rabbit formation. Everyone followed Xiaohua and flew out. Outside the mountain peak, the flame forest mountains were still hot. However, Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian took a deep breath, looked at each other, and said with a smile, The air outside is still fresh. Of course, after staying in a pile of bones for a year, even if they were newlyweds every night, they probably wouldn't be able to bear it. Big senior brother, I'm afraid you can't train with little brother and Shui anymore, right? Xiaohua asked with a smile. Hearing this, Yan Qinglian's face flushed red again. She was extremely charming. How is she still the same as before? Xiangyang shook his head and said, Of course not. My lifespan should have been resolved. Lear has also been born. I naturally have to accompany your senior sister-in-law back to 10,000 Thunder Valley. Chapter 1911. Then he looked at Xiaohua. You've also built your foundation, and your abilities aren't below mine. With you accompanying Shui, I can rest assured. All right. Xiaohua nodded. I'll accompany senior brother back to Shihuang town. All right. Xiangyang originally wanted to refuse, but after thinking for a while he nodded. Then, the 4 of them flew out of Flame Forest Swamp. Along the way, Xiangyang's expression was especially happy. Xiaohua followed Xiangyang and flew in front. He looked behind him at Yan Qinglian and Shui and said with a smile, He, senior brother, master will be happy when we go back this time. He even brought Xiangjili back. That's one thing. Moreover, didn't you build your foundation too? How can master not be happy? Xiangyang immediately replied. Core formation after foundation building. Master won't be happy for long. Xiaohua shook his head slightly. You should understand master's heart. Xiangyang advised. It's hard to say. Xiaohua was a bit annoyed. He had switched to cultivating earth-type techniques, so he couldn't explain it to Xiangyang. At this moment, several divine senses swept over and locked onto several people in a very rude manner. Who is it? Xiaohua was angry and shouted coldly. Unfortunately, he didn't know any divine senses that could harm others. Otherwise, he definitely wouldn't hesitate to use it. Fellow Taoists. A late-stage foundation-building cultivator flew over from afar, followed by several middle and early-stage foundation-building cultivators. Fellow Taoist, please. Xiangyang pulled Xiaohua and stepped forward. He cupped his hands and said, I'm Xiangyang from the Imperial Thunder Sect. What business do you have with me? Fellow Taoist Xiang, I'm Qiongming from the Spirit Husbandry Sect. When the cultivator heard that he was a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect, his expression immediately changed. He smiled and said, I just want to ask fellow Taoist about a small matter. Oh, please speak. Xiangyang nodded. I wonder if fellow Taoist Xiang has seen the soul essence of a ferocious beast? Or a ferocious beast unrelated to the spirit beasts in Flame Forest Swamp? Xiongming hesitated and asked. Xiang Yang was stunned. He scratched his head and said, I don't know what fellow Taoist Xiong is talking about, but I'm sure that my junior brother and I have never seen such a ferocious beast. I see. Xiongming looked at Xiang Yang, then at Xiaohua, then at Yin Qinglian and the baby in her arms. He nodded and said, Then I'll have to trouble fellow Taoist Xiang. Please. Senior Marshal Brother Qiong, a middle-stage foundation establishment disciple at Xiongming's side, said in a low voice. Elder Yuan gave the order to strictly interrogate all those above middle-stage foundation establishment. Xiongming said unhappily. Elder also instructed that all Aurus Core stage cultivators must report to him. Are you also going to block Aurus Core stage cultivators? This is Senior Brother Chang's matter. The disciple muttered. Xiongming flicked his sleeves. I have my own plans. Please excuse me, fellow Taoist. Xiongming cupped his fists and said with a smile. If fellow Taoist Xiang sees this item in the Flame Forest Swamp, please send me a message. I'll be eternally grateful. Of course. Xiang Yang nodded and looked at everyone. Then he left with Xiaohua and the others. Just as Xiang Yang left, Xiongming turned his head and said angrily, Junior Marshal Brother Li Dongming, since this team is led by me, please don't break the rules of the sect. For the past half a year, Junior Marshal Brother Li has doubted my decisions many times. Senior Marshal Brother Chang, I'm doing this for the sake of the Imperial Thunder Sect, Li Dongming said with a fake smile. Since there are disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect coming out from the Flame Forest Swamp, although the direction is wrong, I still have to ask them. There's no need to search their souls, but they have to swear a heart oath, right? Xiongming almost laughed out loud. You want to force the disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect to swear a heart oath? Why, can't I? Li Dongming said stubbornly. Our spirit husbandry sect is no longer the spirit husbandry sect from a year ago. Even if we can't compare to the Imperial Thunder Sect now, we will surpass them sooner or later. Besides, it's just 2 middle-stage foundation establishment stage cultivators, 1 early-stage foundation establishment stage cultivator, and 1 chi refinement stage cultivator. What's the big deal about forcing them to swear a heart oath? Do you think the Imperial Thunder Sect can challenge our spirit husbandry sect? I can't be bothered to talk to you. Xiongming waved his sleeves and was about to fly away. However, Li Dongming was still in high spirits. He laughed and said, There hasn't been any news for more than a year. I'm afraid that everyone has slacked off. I'll use the disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect to raise everyone's spirits. Which junior marshal brother is willing to follow me to take a look? I'm willing. There were actually a few people who weren't afraid of death and were excited. You guys, Xiongming looked around and saw that they were people who didn't get along with him in the sect or people who were very close to Li Dongming. He smiled and said, You guys can go. I'll go back and report this. Hee, Senior Marshal Brother Chang, you can go too. Li Dongming laughed loudly. I've vented my anger for the Imperial Thunder Sect. Maybe Elder Yuan will reward me. That's right, the rest of the people shouted and followed Li Dongming to chase after Xiang Yang and the others. Sai, seeing this, Xiongming shook his head slightly. He knew that since a year ago, the disciples of the Spirit Husbandry sect had obtained Chao Chen's soul essence, and their cultivation had increased by a lot. In the beginning, they were still cautious when they searched around the Flame Forest Swamp. However, as they gradually became stronger, they became bolder. Other than the big sects like the Country of Shi's 3 cultivation sects, the Washing Flower sect, and the Imperial Thunder sect, many cultivators from the other small sects had been killed. Even cultivators in the middle and late stages of the foundation establishment stage were killed by the Spirit Husbandry sect. Therefore their confidence grew. How could they not covet the 4 cultivators from the Imperial Thunder sect and their children? Most importantly, there were 4 storage bags hanging on the waist of the early stage foundation establishment stage cultivator. Let's go. We'll go back. Xiongming smiled bitterly and waved his hand. He led the people who were still standing in the air and left. He naturally knew that the disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect would definitely be at a disadvantage. However, what did this have to do with him? He only cared about reporting Li Dongming's dissatisfaction with his management to the elders. Xiao Hua had followed Xiangyang for less than the time it took to brew a cup of tea, when Li Dongming's divine sense swept over. Xiao Hua was furious and was about to stop when Xiangyang winked at him and said, "Hurry up and leave." Xiao Hua was slightly stunned. Then, he followed Xiangyang and flew out of the flame forest swamp using a normal flying technique. "Quick, catch up to them." Li Dongming saw that the disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect had escaped, and immediately became excited. He ordered the disciples of the Spirit Husbandry sect to give chase. In the time it took to smoke a cigarette, Xiangyang and the others arrived at the top of a fire lake. There were no other cultivators nearby. Xiangyang stopped and gestured for Yan Qinglian to stand behind him. He turned around and said coldly, "I wonder why fellow cultivators of the Spirit Husbandry sect are chasing after me? Do you not want the Imperial Thunder sect to give face to the Spirit Husbandry sect?" "Ha ha ha." Li Dongming waved his hand, and several disciples surrounded Xiao Hua and the others. He laughed maniacally and said, "You took my Spirit Husbandry sect's Chao Wu Soul essence. If you don't hand it over, quickly tell us where it is. Otherwise, don't blame us for not giving face to the Imperial Thunder sect." Chapter 1912. Damn it. Seeing how Li Dongming was so arrogant as to pin the crime on his own family, Xiao Hua immediately thought of the few Spirit Husbandry sect disciples who were at the peak of the Qi refinement realm. He couldn't help but fly into a rage. Birds of a feather flock together. Why are all the Spirit Husbandry sect disciples the same? But soon after, Xiao Hua smiled again and thought to himself, although this guy is extremely boorish and wants to make things up, he's actually right. Xiangyang's expression changed slightly, but he did not panic. He cupped his hands and said, "Fellow Taoist from the Spirit Husbandry sect, I've already explained to fellow Taoist Qiongming that I don't know what soul essence you're talking about. Your senior brother has already let us go. Fellow Taoist, how can you pin the crime on us?" "Haha, senior brother Qiong was careless and was deceived by you. Fortunately, I realized it early. Otherwise, you would have escaped from the flame forest swamp." Xiangyang frowned and said, "Fellow Taoist Li, I don't understand what you're saying." "You don't understand?" Li Dongming sneered. "If you're not guilty, why are you running?" "Running?" Xiangyang smiled. "The flame forest swamp is so big. Do we need to report to your Spirit Husbandry sect disciples if we want to do anything? No matter what, I'm going to check your storage bags to make sure you don't have Chao's soul essence," Li Dongming said with a fake smile. "Storage bags? Soul essence?" Xiao Hua smiled and said, "I'm stupid. I don't know what this soul essence is. How can it be placed in a storage bag?" Li Dongming was at a loss for words. With a flick of his sleeve, he took out his spirit storage bag and sneered. "Fellow Taoist Xiang, this Li doesn't want to pursue the matter. Hand over your junior brother's storage bags to this Li. And this Li will make the decision to let you all go. Don't make this Li lose his temper. These junior brothers of mine don't have good tempers." When Xiangyang heard this, he was so angry that his nose became crooked. What the hell was this? They had not even said a few words, and they had already revealed their true colors. Their goal was the 4 or 5 storage bags on Xiao Hua's waist. Were they still disciples of a cultivation sect? They were even more shameless than rogue cultivators. "Eldest senior brother, what's the point of talking to them?" Xiao Hua immediately stood up and charged forward, blocking the path between Li Dongming and Xiangyang. He waved his hands and cast the spell that he had prepared long ago. Numerous fire dragons that were as thick as thumbs appeared in Xiao Hua's hands and charged towards the Spirit Husbandry sect disciples. Xiao Hua was proficient in fire spells, and in the past year, he had been controlling his spirit fire all the time. His understanding and usage of fire spells had reached a new level, and the fire aura in the flame forest swamp was abundant. When Xiao Hua cast the fire spell, the fire dragons that were as thick as thumbs appeared in his hands. After flying for about a foot, They immediately sucked in the surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth, turning into fire dragons that were as thick as fists. Although the fire dragons were not as powerful as when Yi Yang's fan flashed, and they did not mimic the fire dragons perfectly, the spirit husbandry sect disciples were still caught off guard when they saw such a powerful fire dragon charging towards them. Fight! Many of them cast spells in panic, and some of them even took out the yellow talismans from their storage bags. However, how could Xiaohua's fire dragons be broken by simple yellow talismans? The spirit husbandry sect disciples were shocked when they saw the surging heat wave surrounding them. The yellow talismans that they had shot out were extinguished after spinning in the heat wave for a short while. Even the yellow talismans were burned. They retreated rapidly and wanted to take out their magic treasures. However, just as everyone retreated, the fire dragon's tongue suddenly lapped in the direction that they had retreated. Then it retracted and spread in all directions. The fire dragons connected together to form a wall of fire, separating the spirit husbandry sect disciples from Xiaohua and the rest. Hiss! The group of disciples could not help but gasp. Putting aside the strength of his magic power, his mastery of fire control was definitely something that they could not compare to. The disciples of the Thunder Control sect indeed live up to their reputation. This was the thought that suddenly appeared in their minds. However, was that all? Just as the spirit husbandry sect disciples were filled with admiration, they suddenly realized that their respected senior brother Li Dongming had actually been separated from them. Furthermore, he had been strangled by a spirit husbandry sect disciple who was in the initial stage of the foundation establishment realm. The spirit husbandry sect disciples were stunned. They had really only paid attention to themselves and had not paid attention to anyone else, especially the extremely brave senior brother Li. Li Dongming was also extremely embarrassed. Like the other spirit husbandry sect disciples, his first reaction when he saw the ferocious fire dragon was to use the ice shield technique to block the fire dragon. However, the ice shield only lasted for a moment before it was melted by the fire dragon. Seeing that the fire dragon had turned into a sea of fire and was about to drown him, Li Dongming immediately retreated. However, just as he was about to fly, he instantly felt a sharp black iron needle stabbing towards his waist from his back. Li Dongming had no choice but to stop moving slightly. He swung his hand, and the thunder palm was released. However, just as the thunder palm was released, Xiaohua, who was standing outside the sea of fire, suddenly moved. He charged into the sea of fire like a ferocious demon, and there seemed to be a spear in his hand. Demonic weapon? Li Dongming immediately understood with a sweep of his divine sense. Slightly startled, he hurriedly made a circle with his right hand, and a mirror-like defensive shield appeared to block the attack. At the same time, his figure once again plummeted downwards. However, it was clear that the defensive shield was easily broken by Xiaohua, and Xiaohua's figure was completely unaffected by the defensive shield. In the blink of an eye, he was already beside Li Dongming. Zilala! Only then did Li Dongming's thunder palm hit the black iron needle away. Xiaohua's left hand reached out with the tip of the demonic spear and stabbed towards Li Dongming's chest. Li Dongming panicked and hurriedly waved his hand again, and the thunder palm was released again. However, just as the thunder palm was formed, Xiaohua's left hand shook, and the demonic spear disappeared into thin air. What is this guy doing? Just as this thought appeared in Li Dongming's mind, Xiaohua's right hand appeared around his neck like a ghost. A burst of light flashed, and the defensive yellow talisman around Li Dongming's body was actually crushed by Xiaohua. That ice-cold hand was grabbing Li Dongming's neck. Fellow Taoist, let's talk nicely. Li Dongming was extremely embarrassed, but the irresistible force around his neck made him feel despair, and he couldn't help but speak softly. Seeing this, the spirit husbandry sect disciples looked at each other. They didn't know if they should attack or save him. They were afraid of breaking the vases. Little junior brother, after building his foundation, he has indeed become much more powerful. Xiangyang was also astonished. He knew very well that even if he were to fight against Li Dongming, he would only be able to last a few rounds. If he didn't take out his magic weapon, he wouldn't be able to do anything. However, Xiaohua didn't use any magic weapon at all. and he was able to grab the neck of a cultivator in the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm. He could kill him at any time. Hee. Xiaohua raised his phoenix eyes and glanced at the spirit husbandry sect disciples outside the fire wall. He laughed coldly and said, "Fellow Taoist Li, there are so many people from your spirit husbandry sect. I'm really scared. My hand can't help but tremble." As he said that, Xiaohua's hand trembled, and his strength increased again. Li Dongming almost suffocated, and he hurriedly said in a low voice, "Fellow Taoist, I was blind, cough cough. I've really offended you, Seeing that Li Dongming immediately gave in, Xiaohua also secretly praised him. This fellow knows how to adapt to the situation. Looks like my cultivation technique is settled. All right. Xiaohua nodded and said loudly, "If you want your senior brother Li to live, then retract your divine sense. I have something to say to him." Then he swung his hand and threw out a silence talisman. He looked at Li Dongming with a smile. Seeing Xiaohua's malicious smile, Li Dongming suddenly had goosebumps all over his body. Like a weak girl, he begged, Fellow Taoist. What do you want?" When the spirit husbandry sect disciples heard Xiaohua's words, they hurriedly retracted their divine sense, not daring to release it again. Seeing that there was no sound from the other side and that their vision was blocked, they all looked at each other in dismay once again. It was also very fast. It was only the time to brew a cup of tea. The wall of fire quickly faded away, and Xiaohua and Li Dongming appeared in front of them again. Xiaohua was full of smiles, but Li Dongming was a little forced. "Haha, fellow Taoist Li, your junior brothers are all looking at you, so you have to smile, okay? Don't let them see that there's something wrong with the two of us, or else they'll be suspicious." Xiaohua transmitted his voice. "Aha." Li Dongming laughed as expected, and said to his junior brothers around him, "It's really a big problem. This junior brother Xiao is a Foundation establishment fellow Taoist I met 2 years ago when I was training. Just now, I said that he looked a little familiar, so I didn't attack him. I didn't expect junior brother Xiao's temper to still be as fiery as 2 years ago when he just entered the Foundation establishment realm. He didn't even allow me to ask before attacking. Yes, because junior brother Xiao also had some doubts. He used a spell to ask me about the secret matters 2 years ago. Junior brothers, you don't have to worry." So that's how it is. Seeing Li Dongming say with a smile, everyone's hearts also calmed down. Only Shui was laughing so hard that she wanted to break into the sky. Xiang Yang and Yan Qinglian wanted to laugh, but didn't dare to. Hee, since you've already recognized me, I'm sure senior brother Li also understands that it's impossible for junior brother to have taken some soul essence from your esteemed sect. Moreover, junior brother is truly ashamed that he didn't tell senior brother about junior brother's origins. Xiaohua said rather sincerely. No matter, Li Dongming waved his hand generously. Every cultivator has their own secrets, so how can I investigate? I hope junior brother Xiao can come to my Black Spirit sect for a chat when you have time in the future. Sure, I'll definitely go and nag senior brother Li in the future. Xiaohua's expression was like that of a good friend who hadn't seen each other for a long time. He was really reluctant to part. Soon after, Li Dongming cupped his hands and left with his junior brothers. When everyone's figures disappeared, Shui couldn't help but giggle. She pointed at Xiaohua and said, "Darling Xiao, you actually entered the Foundation establishment realm 3 years ago. How come I didn't know?" Chapter 1913. I can't help it. In this world, only fellow Taoist Li from Spirit Husbandry sect knows that I built my foundation 3 years ago. I can't not give him face. Xiaohua touched his nose and smiled. After Shui finished laughing, she quietly asked, "Darling Xiao, what did you say to Li Dongming?" Hee, fellow Taoist Shui. I told fellow Taoist Li Dongming clearly that only he and I can know about it. Other people can't know about it. That's why I can't tell you," Xiaohua said proudly. Looking at Xiaohua's smug look, Shui pouted and said, "Tell me if you want. If you don't tell me, I'm too lazy to know." Haha, let's go. Xiangyang laughed. He knew that Xiaohua must have gotten something good. Moreover, it was probably some secret of spirit husbandry sect. Otherwise, Li Dongming wouldn't have played along with Xiaohua. As they continued to walk forward, although they encountered several groups of cultivators, most of them were early-stage foundation-building disciples. There were even quite a few aura-refining disciples who were respectful and reverent toward Xiaohua and the others. Xiaohua had finally gotten addicted to acting as a senior several times with great difficulty, so he really enjoyed watching them bow and salute him. Young master is now also a foundation-building senior. A few more days passed. Seeing that they were about to arrive at Shihuang village, Xiangyang asked, "Junior brother, have you and junior sister Shui decided on where to go?" Xiaohua looked at Shui and smiled. "As long as Shui wants to go, I'll go with her. Who cares if it's the end of the world or the corner of the sea? Junior sister Shui, I really envy you. Originally, I wanted to go see Kuehasi. Who knew that the heavens would play tricks on me? I just came out and you want to go back." Yan Qinglian hugged Xiangjili. Her charm was really charming. She regained the demeanor of a famous beauty from Imperial Thunder Sect when she was young. "Junior sister Shui is so happy. Others can't even envy you." Shui smiled. "Then you're still waiting for the trip to Kuehasi?" Shui looked at Xiaohua and said happily, "As long as I have you with me, not to mention Kuehasi, I'm willing to go to Tiannan or Dibei." Ha ha ha, Xiangyang looked at Xiaohua and Shui's lovey-dovey scene and laughed happily. Shihuang town was just around the corner. Just as Xiaohua and the others were about to descend from the sky, they saw 3 foundation-building cultivators across from them. Their faces were filled with anxiety as they hurriedly flew towards them. The one in front had a face as white as jade and 3 strands of long beard under his chin. He had the appearance of an immortal. This person looks familiar. When Xiaohua saw this mid-foundation establishment cultivator, he couldn't help but stare blankly. He seemed to recognize him, but since he was a mid-foundation establishment senior, Xiaohua naturally had an impression of him. Unfortunately, Xiaohua had no impression of him at all. Strange. Xiaohua unconsciously glanced at the cultivator. The cultivator also noticed and glanced at Xiaohua. Seeing that he was a foundation-building cultivator, and that there were 2 mid-foundation-building cultivators behind him, he didn't say anything and just coldly snorted. He cupped his hands towards Xiangyang and Yan Qinglian, and left without saying a word. Xiangyang was also surprised. Looking at the cultivator's back, he asked, "Junior brother, do you know this person?" Xiaohua shook his head. "He looks familiar, but I really haven't seen him before, so I took a second look." "Oh," Xiangyang didn't take it seriously and said with a smile, "Not to mention the cultivators of the Dawn Rain continent. Even the cultivators of my country of Xi are like carps crossing the river. There really are many of them. You wouldn't know any cultivators you've seen before, so it's normal that you don't have any impression of him." And Xiaohua also didn't think so and said with a smile, "Forget it, who cares who he is? Let's respectfully send off senior brother, senior sister, and Xiaojili. Hee, don't forget your promise." Xiangyang glanced at Xiaojili, who was in Yan Qinglian's arms, and said with a smile, "Don't worry." Xiaohua patted his chest. "I can still guarantee this." Immediately, Xiangyang stopped in midair, no longer moving forward. Senior brother?" Xiaohua asked curiously. "Why aren't you moving?" Hee. Xiangyang clapped his hands, and took out the concealed thunderbolt sound-transmitting talisman he used last time. Xiaohua suddenly understood, but then he said with surprise, "Why is senior brother looking for the Imperial Thunder Sect disciple on duty?" "Junior brother, just wait and see," Xiangyang said rather mysteriously. After the concealed thunderbolt sound-transmitting talisman was sent out, a middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator slowly flew over, looked at Xiangyang and the others, and also said slowly, "Which Imperial Thunder Sect's Thunder Palace disciple are you? What business do you have?" Seeing that the disciple on duty was actually a middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator, Xiangyang was delighted. He clapped his hands, took out 2 tokens and handed them over saying, "I am Xiangyang from Thunderbolt Palace, and this is I's token." And that cultivator waved his hand, and the 2 tokens fell into his hand. He scanned them with his divine sense, then frowned and said, "This is Martial Uncle Zhenye's token. What does it mean?" "Good, senior brother knows that Martial Uncle Zhenye has already died, and his corpse is in I's storage pouch. Martial Uncle Zhenye was my Thunderbolt Palace's alchemist, and his storage pouch is on I. Moreover," Xiangyang's following words were transmitted. Oh, that disciple's face was shocked, and then he vigilantly scanned with his divine sense. He clapped his hands and handed over his token, saying, "I am Qianping, and this is I's token." Xiangyang didn't dare to be careless. He took the token, looked at it, and smiled. "Thank you, senior brother Qian." "And no problem." Qianping took the token and returned the 2 tokens to Xiangyang, saying, "Junior brother Xiang, please wait for a moment. I will inform a few senior brothers to come and escort you back to Imperial Thunder Sect." After Qianping flew away, Xiaohua secretly gave a thumbs up, saying, "Big senior brother, you're really something. I never thought of this before. There's no other way." Xiangyang looked at Yin Qinglian and the child in her arms, and said lovingly, "Now that you have a child, you have to be careful. Moreover, escorting the remains of my Imperial Thunder Sect's alchemists and other things is also the duty of disciples like senior brother Qianping." Xiaohua understood that Zhenye's storage pouch not only contained spirit herbs, but also pill recipes and even cultivation methods. These were all treasures of the Imperial Thunder Sect. If they were lost outside, it would definitely be a loss. If Xiangyang brought them back, it would be a great merit. And there was no need to mention the cultivation methods and items from other sects. Sigh. Thinking of this, Xiaohua lost interest in the 4 storage bags he took. Big senior brother will probably take the cultivation methods back. Speaking of this, Xiangyang was slightly surprised and said curiously, "But it's also strange. This senior brother Qianping is a disciple of Imperial Thunder Palace, and from his name, he should be a direct disciple of Imperial Thunder Palace. Why would he be on duty at Western Yellow Village? It's really puzzling." "Hehe, then I'll have to ask senior brother Qian." Xiaohua smiled, but his heart was moved, thinking to himself, could it be that Imperial Thunder Palace sent a disciple out for Qian Qinghua? Thinking of Qian Qinghua, Xiaohua's thoughts unconsciously flew. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.